Welcome, everybody, to the late night discussions of the fantasy Q&As / the week one preview. My name is Noah Tyndale, and I will be your probably one and only host for today. It was not supposed to be this way. I was not supposed to be on my own. So I just kind of found that out last minute, but I can still kind of hold on a show on my own, or so I believe I can. So I want to get some questions answered for you guys in terms of fantasy. I'm in like 4 drafts and 4 leagues of my own. I'm going to have a lot of feelers everywhere, just about like opinions and stuff regarding that. So if you guys want to talk and just discuss some fantasy, discuss some week one predictions, I can wait until a little bit later. Just trying to see until we got some people over here in the chat. Geez, I am on a very teetery foundation as far as my phone is set up. All right, let's go. Got Big Play Slay up in here. We got Asia Green that was waiting on us to start. We have T.Y. Hall. I think he was another one that was recently found us as well. Wallace Smith, what's good with you? Not much, just chilling out here in the West Coast. If you guys are in Atlanta, let me know, because it's about time for y'all to sleep. Got Brian Peoples. How's it going, everybody? Got some people over in different areas as well. All right, we got Isaac Crimes. We got our normal regulars. Yeah, some of you guys need to just calm down. I know it's Thursday morning, but it's Wednesday night right now, and football season is upon us. It is going to be Cowboys at Bucks tomorrow. I took a half day at work tomorrow just to prepare myself for that game, because I do want to be able to get a glimpse of what Tampa Bay is going to continue to look like, as well as the Cowboys. I mean, they're, whatever they've been doing at Hard Knocks, they've been kind of, I've heard opinions saying that was like a very boring season for them in terms of Hard Knocks. So we'll see if they can entertain us throughout the season. Okay. What up, Stanley Jones? Paul over here watching from Utah. That is phenomenal. Okay, we got William Amy. I think I'm saying your name right. I hope I am. If not, I'm just going to call you Will from now, or Will A, whatever you prefer. Anyways, I want to try to get some of your questions answered as far as anyone's lineups. If you guys are participating in fantasy, if you guys have any questions just about like who you would start, who could be on your bench, and just kind of go for overall matchups throughout there. Just kind of looking for the questions as far as that's concerned. Okay, the real. Okay. Wallace Smith's from Savannah, Georgia. Nice to hear. Over in California, and let me tell you, it was 104 over where I was at. It was burning up, and I don't have any sort of AC in my car, so I am dying. Okay, we got ourselves our first question. What should we game plan on Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts? Very good question. So with Jalen Hurts, he's going to be a mobile quarterback. He's going to need to be rushed out the pocket. And it's a good thing that Dean Pease is known for double A gap blitzes, just rushing up the middle as much as he can. He's got the personnel to do that finally over here in Atlanta. He's got a good track record. I know that offensive line for Philly has been beefed up a little bit. They're aging and they're a little bit injury prone at the same time. So we'll kind of see how that goes for them. But if we get Jalen Hurts to realize and recognize that he's guy to make a play, be after the play, and improvise a little bit, maybe that can throw him off. Maybe that can throw off his timing with Devontae Smith. Maybe that can throw off his timing with Jalen Reagor. Maybe that can throw off his timing with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, just ever so slightly. We don't need a whole big push, like a full second. But if we can just distract him just for a moment, confuse him a little bit with our defense, that's just going to be enough, you know. And if we can continue to do that consistently, because we got ourselves a defensive coordinator that knows what he's doing, okay, and he knows how to get people in the right formations, and he knows how to make rookie quarterbacks or somewhat rookie-like quarterbacks confused in the pocket. So that'll be good for us. Okay, so let's take a look at some more of our questions here. Austin Eckler. He is kind of going in the high rounds as far as I've seen. And I kind of know why. I think that Justin Herbert and the rest of the Chargers group, they're going to be very pass heavy, but in terms of their schedule, it's not the most favorable for a running back. I just think that they're going to be, in some games, they're going to be behind more often, which will likely make them throw more. But hopefully, Austin Eckler can get some catches out of the backfield, which he's been known to do. So he's really good in that regard. It's always good to have a dual threat running back that is able to, you know, kind of still run in between the tackles. The Chargers' offensive line has improved, you know, and that's one of the things that you got to consider. When you draft a running back, you're not just drafting them, but you're also drafting the offensive line, and you're drafting the game situations that they might be in. So that's something to keep in mind. If you think that the Chargers are going to be up ahead a lot throughout the season, it's a good idea to get Austin Eckler. But if, for instance, you said you have Michael Carter and Kenyon Drake on my bench, they're both splitting carries. I think the Jets, they kind of have their own like running back committee. Same thing with Kenyon Drake sharing touches with Josh Jacobs over in Vegas. That'll be interesting, though. I would try to suggest that you can trade if you can, just to get some, probably not more depth, but just a little bit better. From Esteban, he says, should I start CeeDee Lamb tomorrow? Good question. Okay. So with CeeDee Lamb, he is still kind of like the second target in that Dallas offense. And when you pair him up against like whoever is going to be the second corner on the Tampa Bay defense, whether that's going to be Jamel Dean, whether that's going to be Sean Murphy-Bunting, whether that's going to be Carlton Davis, I'm kind of blank there. If he's going to be playing a little bit more on the outside, I think that they can bunch him up get them into certain positions, get the secondary a little bit more uncomfortable because, man, it's tough because as much as I like the matchups against Dallas's wide receiving core and Tampa Bay secondary, I think that they can kind of have a little bit more of a favorable matchup there. If that's not going to happen, then it's likely because that Tampa Bay's pass rush is just going to get there a little bit too fast for Dak, which it's a little bit up in the arms about there. Asia Green commented earlier, who do you think will be the player to pay most attention to? Oh man, that's a very tough one. Let's see. I can probably go by position. So I'm going to start with the quarterback. I think if y'all have already drafted in major drafts and are kind of in like a 2 quarterback system and are trying to figure out like the most favorable matchups, let me know out in the comments as well. Or in the chat. I don't know. I'm new to this, so don't rope me too hard. But as far as the quarterbacks is concerned, I want to look for good matchups as far as at least week 1. I think quarterbacks are going to be something that you can kind of switch in and out of if you have a good duo there. If not, if you only rely on one quarterback, then maybe it's not going to be that much of a, you know, like you got to switch one of them out. Like if you want to hope for a bye week, then that's another one too. If you just want to just chug along and say, you know what, I'm just going to lose this week because it's going to be too much of a hassle in order to find another quarterback during their week 6 bye week or whatever. So the quarterback that I would look forward to, I think he was being drafted pretty low despite having some good numbers that he can put up, and that's Derek Carr. I know that Derek Carr is not going to be the most flashiest of players, but with John Gruden, he's always going to get himself a good completion percentage. He's always going to get some good deep threat options with Henry Ruggs. I think he's going to get himself a viable option at receiver in the red zone as far as Bryan Edwards. I think Darren Waller is going to be as fantastic as he's been last year. I think a decent enough run game from Josh Jacobs, and I'm only saying that because, again, you're drafting the offensive line. I've heard some good things about Alex Leatherwood in camp and in the preseason games, so that looks to be a good thing. Colton Miller has, held his own on the left tackle position. It's just the other positions and, kind of the matchups that they'll be facing. If they're going to be down a lot, then maybe you can kind of sub him out for something else. But for the most part, it's still that offense still kind of runs by Derek Carr. And I think that he can, cause some trouble for some defenses just based off of like the game plan that they have. For the running back is concerned, this also is kind of dependent on what type of league that you're in. If it's more of like a PPR or a standard, or I'm also using this brand new one called Best Ball. Basically, Best Ball is just this mode where it only takes the best players, like your best performing players in that particular week, and matches them up against your opponents. You don't have to set your lineup. You don't have to worry about injuries or trades or anything like that. If any of that does happen, then they'll just switch it out with the next best player in that position as far as their ADP is concerned. And it does update itself for the positions like on a weekly basis too. So it's not going to automatically give you like J.K. Dobbins or Travis Etienne or Cam Akers if your running back goes down. Speaking of which, as far as a fantasy running back to pay attention to, I don't want to go for a committee. I don't want to go for a running back committee right now. So that kind of takes out like teams like Tampa Bay, especially Houston. I think they're still kind of rocking with Phillip Lindsay for week 1. But if not, that could be surprised with David Johnson or Mark Ingram. As far as the running back to look forward to right now, here's a guy that's, man, I'm sounding like Chris Collinsworth. Here's a guy that is spiked up a lot recently, and that was Jonathan Taylor. I think he was getting a lot of looks in the first round and a lot of people's drafts too. So that's something to keep in mind, making sure that he is going to be enough of a valuable option. I know he sprouted a lot in the second half of the season, which is fantastic for all the Colts fans. Can they keep that up though? Like, can Carson Wentz oh my goodness, my foundation. But can they keep that up? I would like to see that. I think that the Colts are still going to be a really good team. I just think that sometimes they're going to be a little bit more of a victim of the schedule than last year. As far as oh geez, man, I lost my spot. Okay, as far as the wide receiver is concerned, here's a guy that's kind of fallen a little bit in and out of other people's lineups. He's kind of like the third option on this offense, but I think that he's going to get a lot more touches and targets than the other two, and that's Laviska Shenault for Jacksonville. Jacksonville is already going to put themselves in a pass-happy kind of attack as far as their offense is concerned. So Laviska Shenault is going to be that slot guy, and he's also going to probably take a lot of the carries that Travis Etienne was going to get. When you think about how DJ Chark and how Marvin Jones active are as far as their roles at wide receiver, I think they need more of a gadget player, and I think Laviska Shenault can do a really good job of that. As far as a tight end, oh man, tight end pool is usually kind of thin. So if you want one, you better need to have got a good one early on. But I think that there's someone else that is getting a lot of negligence for whatever reason. Every single fantasy like website or app that I've went to, they always have this player so low. And Falcons fans, rejoice, because Hayden Hurst is probably available in your lineups. And remember, he is still a starter. He's still a starting tight end on our roster. He's in a tight end friendly offense. He's with Arthur Smith that knows how to utilize his tight end groups. He is going to get a lot of good looks because of Kyle Pitts, because of Calvin Ridley, either serving as decoys or just basically getting a lot of attention in general on the defensive side. So that can probably create some good one-on-one matchups that Hayden Hurst can weasel his way into. And he's got the athleticism for it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, he is a very good athlete. As far as a defense, oh, geez. It's mostly matchups for me. I always want to go for like a bad go for an underwhelming offense and just try to attack the defense and just try to attack them with the defense of that week. I don't really want to keep a whole lot of consistency there, just because, like the schedule fluctuates, and that's the key thing too. Like, maybe you can get the Rams, but then the Rams, they're going to face Arizona twice a year. They're going to face San Francisco twice a year. They're going to face Seattle twice a year. Are you going to be okay with those matchups? There's going to be some teams that have really good defenses, but they're also going to have really good offenses to kind of go up against that. So that might not give you the best matchups on a weekly basis, to just kind of like get your feelers out there and just kind of see like, oh, hey, like, this team is going to go up against the Giants or something. So I want to get them because I think Daniel Jones is going to be a little bit more turnover prone, or just as an example. And then as a kicker, and I got to go with Younghoe Koo. And if not him, then I always want to get a kicker for a team that either scores a lot or always gets in position to score a lot, but may not always be able to punch it in. And this is why in the past, I'm going to be honest, I've always drafted Falcons kickers for that reason. Whether it was Younghoe Koo last year, who did wonders for my fantasy team last year, or if it was Matt Bryant from before. I think that you want to get yourself an offense that's just good enough to get in field goal range on a consistent basis, but may not always have what it takes to punch it in. It's going to be very annoying to see those like 20-something yard field goals. It's terrible, right? But if you have that kind of kicker, it can do some pretty good things for you. It can give you a couple extra points. So those are going to be my position groups, players to kind of watch over for. I went really in depth there, but I just wanted to leave a little bit more time for more questions to come up here. D Block the Great from South Carolina. Nice. All right. So T.Y. Hall says, should I put Gage in at flex? Gage is our second our second wide receiver option. And if there's one thing that Arthur Smith is going to be comfortable with, and it's utilizing his best weapons. So when you look at the pecking order, where does Russell Gage lie? It's going to be Calvin Ridley first. Then it's going to be Kyle Pitts, most likely second. If not, he's going to be tied with second for probably Hayden Hurst. Just because I want Hayden Hurst to kind of play himself into another contract for another team, because we're not going to be able to keep him. And, I want him to do good. Then maybe third is going to be Gage, if not Mike Davis. Do you like those matchups? And this is an offense that we're not going to be we're not expecting this offense to be very pass heavy. Arthur Smith has made it known that he wants to be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively. Does he have the offensive line capable for that? We'll see. It's not the best matchup week 1. It's definitely not the best matchup week 2. But I think down the line, I think you can get some sneaky good matchups there for Mike Davis. Just because he's kind of like our version of Austin Eckler, but he's more prone to big more tackles afterwards, which will be nice for yards after contact. So for this question about as far as your flex position, my question to you is, who else is on your bench, or who is your starting people? outside of that. So I want to be able to get your thoughts on that later on. Okay, the Golden Rooster says our passing defense versus their passing, is it offense? Like, are we talking about week 1 here for Philly? Our passing defense, it's gonna get a lot of attention to Devontae Smith, and once that's passed, it's gonna get a lot of attention to Dallas Goedert, just because he's a bigger body and it's gonna be easy for Jalen Hurts to throw to. Tight ends are normally your security blankets for a young tight end or for a young quarterback. I know that Tony Gonzalez was like that for Matt Ryan, and I think Dallas Goedert can be that way for Jalen Hurts, continue to be that one for Jalen Hurts as well. We got some athletic people on our side of the ball too, and they're not just athletic, but they're also smart too. I know we haven't seen a whole lot of them from the preseason, and I know that week 1 is generally our overreaction Monday and our overreaction week. But if we settle it down and we calm down, I think that this game is going to be a low-scoring game, which will benefit us because it's not going to give us a whole lot of like gashing yards, and it's not going to give us a bunch of, it's not going to give us a whole lot of like deep passes against us. If anything, I think that I'd be afraid more for like deep, like defensive pass interference flags, just because they're so unpredictable, but they can happen at any given time. It'll be even worse if it's like late in the game and it kind of decides the momentum of the game. Man, it's a bit iffy there. I don't love our matchup right now just because I haven't seen a sample size yet. I do like the abilities that our starting corners can be. I do like the depth of our safeties. Can they make an impact week 1? Man, we'll see. Okay. William says your linebackers are the biggest strength. Just contain Jalen Hurts and get them tight ends in check. Yeah, I mean, we definitely have the coverage guys available. Deion Jones is one of the best coverage guys in the NFL. You got Michael Walker, who's surprised us last year with his coverage abilities, considering he was a pass rusher out of college. Foye has always been a kind of a do-it-all linebacker, which was nice for us. And then you got some sneaky other players too, like. Maybe we see a little bit of Dorian Etheridge a little bit, just to get someone that's a little bit more like really rangy and instinctive. I think that'll be nice for us. But yeah, just first of all, we got to make sure that our defensive ends can do enough too. Like we got to make sure that Dante Fowler, we got to make sure that Stephen Means are going to be able to do enough to keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket too. All right, I don't want another year of us losing to mobile quarterbacks. Just for the fact that they're mobile, I don't like that to keep happening. So maybe DMPs can change that for us. Maybe our new culture can kind of do that for us. Golden Rooster says, I bought a Julio Jones jersey last year. Man. I actually just last night, I ripped down my Julio Jones poster because I was so frustrated because of how he walked out of our facility. That was just not a good look on either his part or our part, man. It was, it was really civil the way that it happened. Like we didn't know about this stuff until much later, but now it's like nearing closer and closer to football season where more people are going to have eyes on these stories and more people are going to be able to react. Man, that's tough, but yeah, I have like an old Julio Jonesy as well that I don't really know what to do with, man. It's not just the fact that he walked out. It's just the way that he did, If everything that is allegedly happening is true, oh, man. It's just going to leave another like very small list of players that were like complete Falcons throughout their life. And I don't like that. I really thought Julio could be that one that could just stay the course, just play it out like Larry Fitzgerald or play it out like Alvin Johnson did. But instead, okay. Millie Mills says, what about the Patriots running backs, Damian and Ramondre? Yeah, I mean, Sony Michel stepped out. He got traded to the Rams. It's going to be a little bit less of a committee there. I do know for a fact that Mac Jones is going to benefit from a run game. And we've seen that in the preseason as well. Like we've seen Ramondre Stevenson break off some good runs. We've seen Damian Harris have some good looks as well. So if I were to be given the choice between one or the other, I do like the fresh legs of Ramondre Stevenson, and I do like his perfectly spherical body. He reminds me of Mike Tolbert, and that could be beneficial for them in the red zone. So maybe you can get some like goal line targets there. You'll never know. Oh, Paul, I heard Eckler was on the sideline today at practice. Man, maybe that negates everything I just said earlier. I'm sorry, man. Availability is the best ability, is what they said. Kenny Golladay was like that for the Giants too. It's like, man, you want these people to be on the field, but you just don't know. Oh man, my chat list has been okay. Do you think the loss of Julio Jones affected the team by any way? Says the Blanc the Great. If anything, it was just our image. It was just the outside perspective from my other fan bases and whatnot. For us, like internally, sure, we're upset about it. Like, we're frustrated. Like, we would have wanted to see what it would look like to have Julio and Ridley and Pitts on the same field at the same time. But there's always going to be another superstar that looms around in the draft. There's always going to be another one that surprises us, and who knows? Maybe we can find another one there if it gets that bad. Which I don't think that our wide receiver in depth, it's a bit shaky. All right, like, let's be real, it's a bit shaky, but it does have upside. Frank Darby especially, he's got so much upside that I just love. Ghost Pepper said, "Make Hurts beat you with his arm. If last year is any indication, he can't. If the offensive line holds up at all, oh my goodness, I can't speak. If the offensive line holds up at all, Ryan is going to piece up their secondary." I mean, it's a lot to ask for a week one matchup. We've seen in the past how our offense kind of feels sluggish a little bit at times. I know it's not really completely justified for us to kind of dig into the history, because I do feel like a big change in culture and just the feel of the team with Arthur Smith. So it's not going to be a fair comparison if I just go, well, I mean, in 2019 or in 2018, when we really had that sluggish of the offensive game against Philly, it's going to be something to see. Like, you just hope that Philly has more rust than Atlanta, which is already rusty just for the fact that they haven't played the preseason, which is a good thing, by the way. Okay. This year, NFL added a week with the most leagues. Regular season ending week 14 ties are more likely. Tiebreakers are going to be play a bigger part this year. Draft high ceiling. It's a good point, but it's also good to have some depth and just kind of keep your feelers as well for the rest of the team, because it's a long season, like you just said. You can't expect everyone to play all 17 games unless if you're a stable quarterback like Matt Ryan. Tev Sports and Gaming. It's going to be a little bit about both. I'm just going to be more general this time. I think that you've kind of heard a lot of the opinions anyways from this game against Sunday, especially in the earlier podcast, or not podcast, but especially in the earlier stream. Ooh. Okay. William says we got to run the ball more. That is true. That is what everyone on here on this platform has been preaching. All right. And like, when you take a look at it, Arthur Smith got the absolute most out of Derrick Henry. His first full year as an offensive coordinator over there in Tennessee had 1,500 yards and followed that up with a 2,000-yard season. That is thanks in part to a good play-action passing game that Ryan Tannehill was able to benefit off of more than Marcus Mariota did the previous year. Because you got to remember, Marcus Mariota started that season in 2019, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, like, if you just get some really good looks with your play action, which I think that, like Matt Ryan was another guy that really benefited from having a good play action. He did that especially with Michael Turner. He did that as well with Devontae Freeman. If you just give him a threat, any sort of threat in that run game, and just cause those linebackers to just take a pinch a little bit more up front so that they are kind of wincing for the run, I think that'll be good for like dig routes, especially. That was Julio's bread and butter. Excuse me. That was Julio's bread and butter. Now it's gonna be Ridley's bread and butter and Pitt's bread and butter. Like a lot of bread and a lot of butter is going to be spread around during this season, which is going to be amazing for us to watch. Okay. Ty Hall says Claypool, Emmanuel Sanders from the Bills, Damian Harris from the Patriots. So that was with the Gage at your flex. I do like Sanders because Sanders is like the better. He seems like the guy that's going to get more targets there. Chase Claypool is going to be the number one guy, but I think that Pittsburgh is trying to be more like run friendly. Like they're trying to really compensate their drafting Najee Harris at the round 1 and Pat Freiermuth at round 2, which I think they do really good things for the run game and then do really good things in the passing game as well. So you got that, and you got two others receivers in Deontay Johnson, who just needs to hang on to the ball, and Juju Smith-Schuster, which he's capable of getting like a bulk of the carries, but he just needs another threat. And I think Claypool was definitely that last year. They got on a hard start, but just pay a little bit more attention to the matchups that you see in terms of the defenses that they're going to be going up against. If you think they're going to be behind, then sure. Then I suggest that you get either Claypool or Emmanuel Sanders. I think that they're going to have a little bit more of a better chance to score. So maybe you'll take that offer then instead of Gage, because I'm not expecting this game to be higher scoring against the Falcons and Eagles. I'm expecting this to be a little bit of a sluggish and tough game, a defensive battle, and that's going to be that should be what we're used to at this point. Like, I want to be used to a sluggish and tough game that we can come out and be victorious in. Okay. I like having really break Darius Slay ankles 1-to-1 matchup. You know, like if he did that with Xavier Howard in that joint practice and Byron Jones, who I think still has that better upside as far as being a corner this season than Darius Slay. I'm not saying that he's worse. I'm just saying that I think their matchups can be a little bit better. I think they're going to have a better impact just because of the depth of the Miami secondary. So, you know, you got that. Let's take a look over. Yeah, my goodness. Every single time I keep moving to the chat and it just messes us up. Rashad, Darius Slay, and a lock up Ridley. Even if that's the case, can you lock up everyone at the same time? Because sometimes, sure, that can be true. But then that can also cause more attention and then help other people get open too. So you got to remember that. Like sometimes a good matchup with a wide receiver and a corner is more meant to, like if you have like a top corner in the league, sure, that can take away the whole half of the field. But you can still kind of game plan with that in mind and then kind of get some underneath routes and just kind of get a little bit more crossing routes, some flood concepts, some levels, some, you know, like some corner routes from the tight end, and just kind of get everything a little bit more open so that, you know, you can kind of get that corner to be frustrated. You know, we saw that in the matchup with the Packers and the Rams with Devontae Adams and Jalen Ramsey. Like they were able to scheme Devontae Adams open, especially on that goal line play. Like that was just going to be something that, you know, the other corner was responsible for. They didn't communicate all that well in the matchups, and it just turned out poorly for Jalen Ramsey. So sometimes that can happen too. Like sometimes, sure, you can have a really good corner, but it might not matter if the game plan is kind of attacking that idea. So JC730. So the rumor was that it was better explained in yesterday's stream. Yeah, like you just got to remember, like all these alleged reports, you just got to take with a grain of salt. You just got to make sure that you're saying allegedly in front of everything. That way, it's not going to be true to your head. If it does come out true, that's a whole different story, and just kind of react to however you want. But yeah, if whatever the case is, we've heard some other things about this before, with other players where it's like, no, like they're innocent. I really want that to be the case with Julio. Like, I don't want to hate him as a character, It's just going to be something that we just got to be careful about reacting to. And Miles Sanderson to check in the running game. Yeah, I mean, Miles Sanders, they might have a little bit of a committee too with Kenneth Gainwell. I wouldn't be surprised to see him to get more targets as well. Maybe they split and, like, I don't know, maybe like 15 or 15 touches each. Touches meaning like it could be like pass receptions or run attempts. Oh, jeez. Whew. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that at that and just let that play its own course. And honestly, you don't need my opinion on that. Okay, let's go back. I picked a 12 and a 16 team PPR and got Josh Allen, Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, Cortland Sutton, and Darren Waller. How do you feel about that? 16 team? Man, you must have finagled a lot of different draft picks, man. Sometimes you can get some draft trades for those picks. I don't know if you did that here. I think maybe, oh man, you probably had Adams first, Waller second, probably got Godwin third, and maybe Josh Allen fourth. It's still kind of high for a quarterback to go, but it's Josh Allen, so you kind of live with that. And then Cortland Sutton, man, he's such a question mark because he was out all last season, and that was really disappointing. Probably Drew Lock was the most disappointed, but Teddy Bridgewater is going to be a little bit of a safer option. You just don't know if there's going to be that much of a deep threat anymore, and that was kind of half of the receiving core for the Broncos. Like, they had Cortland Sutton, who's a really good deep threat option. KJ Hamler was another great deep threat option. Tim Patrick can get some good looks on the outside for, like a 20, 25-yard throw. And you got some other sneaky people in there. And let's not forget, you got Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams out the backfield. You got Noah Fant, he still has to prove himself. He still has to make sure that he can stay consistent. But I do like his talent. But yeah, Cortland Sutton he should be a really good receiver if he plays all 17 games, which, I can't make that prediction. I can only give you an opinion now about how I feel week 1. Okay, Dre. Is that workflow, Dre? Okay. How do you feel about our O-line against the Eagles D-line? If you're worried about it, just know that Arthur Smith was a former offensive line coach. He was a tight ends coach over at Tennessee before he became the offensive coordinator. He was able to rally around a couple of good opportunities with a little bit of an inconsistent O-line in Tennessee. I know that they got some key pieces like Roger Saffold and Taylor Lewan and Ben Jones in center, but I think that can also kind of describe us. We got ourselves a good left tackle. We got ourselves a really good right guard. We got ourselves a smart center. I'll just say that. We'll see how he is athletically. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's all you need. And everything else can be schemed around that. Sometimes you just need a quick passing game. Sometimes a screen or two, or just throwing to the blitz and throwing to the pressure, which is what Matt Ryan has really done well in the past. And that's like either running away from the blitz or throwing towards the blitz. Just make sure that you got a better angle to throw for it. Okay, Proven says Cortland Sutton or Deebo Samuels or OBJ. It is late at night, sir. You can calm down. Okay, I can see all this, man. I'm going through it slowly. And we only have so many people in the chat, man. I can go and kind of take my own pace. So don't worry. I'm going to get to you in just a sec before I start going on about what I think for the rest of the week 1. And then maybe some of that answer stuff can answer your own questions after that. So Sutton, Deebo Samuels, OBJ. Here's the thing. I think OBJ was really underrated in the fantasy drafts this year. I was able to snag him in like round 9 sometimes. And, that's a really good steal considering he's still their number 1 receiver. I know that they got a really good receiving core, right? They got him, they got Landry, they got Donovan Peoples-Jones, they got Rashard Higgins. They got like 2 guys that are capable of catching some good passes at tight end, and they got a fantastic offensive line, and they got a fantastic running game. Like, that's almost unfair, man. That's such a well-balanced offense, but I guess that's what happens when you have all these, like, when you have all the draft capital in the world for not being really good before that. I think the defense can still be opportunistic on that for Cleveland, and can possibly get you some more some more extra possessions. I do like that with Sutton as well. I think that Denver's secondary is going to be something. Oh, excuse me. I think that's going to be very feared this year. Very intimidating. Deebo Samuels. Oh man, I would trust Brandon Ayuk more, or I would trust Brandon Ayuk more instead of Deebo Samuels. I know that he's kind of more of like a pre-snap gadget player. He's got such a big body and frame for that too. He's got the role that I would really like to see Cordell Patterson have, in our Atlanta offense. So for that, I would go OBJ. I think that just because of how badly that 2020 was for everyone, like, plus the new offense for Kevin Stefanski to be with Baker Mayfield, that was something that they had to learn out throughout the rest of the season, and OBJ wasn't there for that. But if you look at the previous games, Brett Coleman made a really good video about that. I'm actually a huge supporter of Brett Coleman, so much so that I'm wearing one of their Bootleg Football podcast jerseys and Falcons colors. That's how much I like their content over there. And if you're not aware of them, I'd say, hey, give them a subscribe too. You can give us a subscribe while you're at it too. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're already here with that, but if you want to share this around, that'd be interesting to see that. Just to see that blossom and flourish. I would go OBJ, and I know that the Kansas City defense is going to be. It's a bit wishy-washy. L'Jarius Sneed was a good corner for them. Tyrann Matthews and I got to check up a little bit more on the Kansas City secondary, as they didn't have to do a whole lot against Tampa Bay's defense, which is why it's been like I got such a bad memory about them. But as far as the chemistry with Baker Mayfield, I think that's just going to be all you need right now. So I think that can overcome whatever kind of secondary that's going to be up against them. Okay. Oh, geez, it moved again. All right, let's go down. Yeah, I can't expect Matt Ryan to be throwing more than 30 times in week 1. Oh man, what was this about? Okay. All right, AB or OBJ? I think I just kind of answered your question a little bit more. It's AB is still like the 3rd receiver, and I know that he's going to learn the playbook a little bit more. He has more of a chemistry with Tom Brady this time around. He's still the 3rd receiver, though. That's what you got to keep in mind. There's only one football on on that offense, and it probably isn't going to go to anyone else other than those 3. Do you trust Rob Gronkowski to get a lot of targets? Probably not. Do you trust O.J. Howard on his final year playing for his NFL contract? If he can stay on the field all 17 games, that'll really help him out. And then Cameron Brate, I think he can steal some targets as well. Giovanni Bernard is someone that you also have to watch out for too, as far as like maybe some 3rd down receptions that he can get out of the backfield. I mean, we've seen like the game that Brady likes to play, and it's very short as far as like the amount of yards that he has to throw in order for them to get yards. So I do think that Antonio Brown is still a viable option to get, but when you compare him to OBJ right now, he doesn't have that big of a role. Malcolm Brooks said Jonnu Smith or Hayden Hurst week 1. I think I'm thin at tight end since I stacked up on wide receiver and running back. That's still a good thing, all right? I don't care how many leagues that I don't know care how many teams that you have in your league, whether it's like 10, 12, 16. I don't know. If you want to get real crazy with it and go 32, if you have a friend group that goes to 32 teams in a fantasy league, good for you. Keep them all because they are hard to come by for that many people to be passionate about fantasy. So for Jonnu Smith, Hayden Hurst, man, they have the same role. And that's so tough. So at that point, you just got to look at the matchups. Like, do you think that Mac Jones is going to be throwing around the ball a lot? More so than Matt Ryan? That's going to be a little bit tough for me to call, so maybe ask yourself that. Because I think the Patriots are going up against Miami. If you like what they saw, if you like what you saw against the joint practices with Kyle Pitts against Miami, then maybe try to go with Jonnu Smith. But just remember that not Hayden Hurst, but Hunter Henry. Jeez, I always get their names confused sometimes. That was weird. Hunter Henry is going to get his first share of receptions too. Just something for the Mac, but they got a lot of money in the offseason, and Bill Belichick really needs to justify that. So if he can do that with a lot more targets on the tight ends, which will benefit the receivers on the outside too, which I think feature Nelson Aguilar, N'Keal Harry, and Kendrick Bourne. I think there was a third option. That's a bit iffy. But I think what you did was fine. You stacked up on wide receiver and running back. Running back especially is a very thin pool to select from. Very slim pickings when you get in like round 4 and like after that, So it's like you're not just getting backups. You're sometimes getting the backups to the backups. Whereas with tight ends, you can still sneak by on another option there. So if you think that Mac Jones is going to get more attempts to throw the ball against Miami's defense, then heck, go with them. Go with Jonnu. But if you think that Matt Ryan can get a little bit more of a momentum going on against Philly, Hayden Hurst is it's pretty much the same option. Okay. Can I take the bag off my head yet? Sure. I don't know what this question was for. Okay. Guess that was done. Let's get some more things. Oh, dear child, I too was a Falcons fan for many, many years. Not everyone has the guts to stay patient on a team. That's all I gotta say. Like when you want to join a fan base like Atlanta or any of the other like 12 teams that haven't won a Super Bowl, that shows that you're more than just a Falcons fan. That you're a football fan, all right? And you just want like a good story. You just want a good team to root for every year. All right? Like if you're with us, you're probably not the biggest carer of how much success that you're going to have on a particular team, which sometimes that's a drawback for a lot of people, like if this team isn't successful, then I'm out, but if you want to stay through it and really get to enjoy the first Super Bowl for a franchise, and you want that to be Atlanta, man, hey, come back. Like always accepting some invitations for fans because our fan base needs it. We need some true fans, man. We need a lot more because I am so sick and tired of seeing all these fair weather ones. All right, so Pruvis now says Mike Davis, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or Melvin Gordon. I don't like Melvin Gordon right now. I like Javonte Williams a little bit more. I think he's going to get a little bit more snaps in passing game as well, just because of how fantastic he is at pass protection. Golly, have you seen his highlights in the preseason and in college especially? Man, he just blows people up. So I think just that performance alone can get him some more opportunities to get the ball on passing situations. Melvin Gordon, I don't like so as much. He might be listed as an RB1, but maybe that's not the case like 8 weeks into the season. So Clyde, oh man, that Browns defense is so stout, especially on the front. Man, you got Clowney, who could have another resurgence in his career, especially along with Myles Garrett. Golly, man. Maybe we get to see how their Chiefs offensive line holds up and how adamant they want to be about running the ball. Mike Davis is another one where it's like, man, I really want Mike Davis to do well right out the gate. It's going to be a lot to ask, but it's not like it hasn't been done before, you know. Like, do you want Mike Davis to kind of feel like a Michael Turner, or do you want him to be more of like a Matt Forte? I personally would want him to be more of a Matt Forte, but that's just me because I want him to have more usefulness in the passing game as well. Chris Dunlap says Russell Gage or Henry Ruggs. As of right now, Ruggs is facing Baltimore secondary. For right now, I like the matchup that Gage could have with Philadelphia's secondary. Because whether they're going to put someone like Steven Nelson or Avonte Maddox on them, or maybe they grab one of their corner or safeties, they better not put a linebacker on him because, golly, that'd be quite the mismatch. I don't think anyone is going to be prepared for. I like Russell Gage just even so slightly, but those aren't my favorite options there. A.J. Dillon and Damien Harris is my running backs in that league. A.J. Dillon is going to be another one to look out for as far as like how many targets he can get in the red zone. Like, can he get a lot of touches away from Aaron Jones? Sometimes that could be the case, man. And sometimes, hey, all you want is the backup behind an amazing starter, just in case they go down. Like in one of my leagues, I drafted Chuba Hubbard, who is going to be the backup for Christian McCaffrey. You know, do I think that he's going to have another like Mike Davis type of season? We'll see how it goes. If that was the case, like if he misses like 14 games or whatever. So A.J. Dillon is still going to be a good 1-2 punch to have there. Damien Harris, that's a committee, so just be wary of that. I'm slightly aroused by the rookie quarterback. Maybe I'll watch this year if my garden will allow it. My garden? I don't know what that means. Okay. I got Gio in my 40 deep league. 40? Like 40 teams? Man. If that's what that means. Golly. It is. All right. It is tough. Because sometimes you're not just looking for success. All right. You're just looking for good people to root for. And hey, I kept finding that for Atlanta. Did you just tell that guy to ask himself a question he asked you in a Q&A stream? Yes. Yes, I did. And I would not change that idea. It's just going to be something for him to think about. Because if you want an exact answer, I can't give that to you. All right, I'm just a guy that has combined gut instinct with what with what he reads around the league. All right, like that's just me. If you want to go by exactly what I am saying, take that advice at your own risk. But I'm still trying to advise some of you guys to make your own opinions about certain things. All right, like because if you just rely on me for everything, then first of all, that is going to be quite the responsibility that I'm going to end up having, which is going to be way more impossible for me to control right now. I wouldn't be ready for that. It's a good message to keep. Would you start Kyle or Kittle or Pitts? Because I really think that this Pitts breakout game for those quick throws for us. Yeah, because Kittle's healthy. If Kittle's healthy, he's going to get targets from I don't care who. All right. Whether it's Jimmy G or whether it's going to be Trey Lance or whether it's going to be both and you just kind of like switch off every other drive like they did against Vegas. Whatever the case is, he's going to get the ball and he's going to get the ball a lot. All right. Do you see how much money he's getting paid in his contracts? That man has paid his dues and is getting ready for yet another season where he's going to get a lot of looks. And right now he's facing against Detroit. For what it's worth right now, I don't think that God, that's gracious. I don't think that Detroit is going to be the toughest team as far as covering George Kittle. So if you want to take that. Oh, it's Jacoby Myers that was on the next option for New England. I said play John Q. They got yeah, man, geez, they're stacked. Larry Ogunjobi's another underrated D tackle to watch out for, and they just improved the linebacking core in Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Tony Fields II just to be safe. That they want athletic linebackers that are instinctive, and their secondary is loaded too. Like I would not put it past me if the Browns got it really deep in the playoffs because they are too well-rounded and have too easy of a schedule to disappoint you. Mike Bolin Ball Davis. Let's hope he continues that trend for us, man. Because I just love those types of runs where it just straight up just plows through people and just gets rid of all the arm tackles that sometimes, like Ty Gurley or some of our smaller running backs would, they'd get tackled by an arm tackle here and there, and I would not like that at all if that happened to Mike Davis. I would love that as well, but whew, okay. Our roster is 40 players deep. That's still a lot. Golly. For how many teams? Like 5? No, it wouldn't be 5. 4? You're going 4 teams in a league that are redrafting 40 people? Because there's not gonna be enough people in the league for you to be drafting at the 40th round. Okay, 6 teams. Yeah. All right. It's a short league. Okay. Why do you keep moving me like that? All right. All right. You're welcome, Millie Mills. Falcons need to sign Latavius. My question is why? If you think that he's going to be somewhat of a difference or somewhat of an upgrade between Wayne Gallman, he could, but who's probably going to ask for more money? Just based off of experience, Latavius Murray has been in the league for a long time, and maybe he can bounce around some experience. But if you want someone like that that's just going to bounce around experience, Frank Gore is still on the table, man. Like maybe get him on a roster somewhere just for him to be just someone that everyone else can sponge off of in the running back room. Maybe. Myles Gaskin, he's a very underrated option for as far as running backs go in the fantasy draft. I think that if they want Tua to improve, they're going to have to ramp up the run game. Do they have the offensive line for it? We'll see. Do they have the schedule for it? We'll see. Do they have the defensive game plans to attack the Dolphins offense? We'll see. I'm still taking my chance with Myles Gaskin because he's going to be another like do it all kind of back for them. Should we have let Takk McKinley go? He wanted out, so I don't think that was a choice that had to be made for us. I think he already made that choice for us, as like his Twitter comments would say. Okay, what's your prediction? I'm going to get to that in actually just a moment. So I think that we're kind of good on the questions for now. It has already been an hour. I'm sorry to keep all y'all waiting out there on the East Coast. For all my West Coast viewers, maybe stick around a little bit more. So I am going to have my week 1 platter up on my other screen here. So NFL schedule 2021. I'm also going to be pointing out a little bit more as to like why I think the way that I do and what kind of players will impact that a little bit more. I don't want to stay on here forever because it's already been exactly an hour. But if we go on and start with the Cowboys and the Buccaneers, that's going to be an uphill battle for Dallas if they want to win that game. As a Falcons fan, I want them to. I'm kind of rooting for the Cowboys to win that game just to upset, just have some sort of momentum swing. Make Brady and the rest of the Tampa team not look so invincible. All right, because they have been preaching and praising about how we've maintained all 22 people and like every coaching staff member and like every single person, and we only got better by adding Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and having some more depth at quarterback with like Harold Trask. Is that your team's not perfect? All right, let's just get that clear. All right, did you win the Super Bowl? Yes. Did you get better? Kind of. All right, you can only improve so much with just chemistry. Sometimes you just need another weapon. Maybe it would have been a running back. I don't know. Well, I mean, it was kind of different to see how the cards fell in the first round. Maybe Joe Tryon wasn't their first option. Maybe it was. I don't know. But the idea of JPP, Shaq Barrett, Vita Vea, Ndamukong Suh, and now Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, golly, they have one for every position on the offensive line. That's unfair. They're going to be running a 5-2 kind of defensive unit now, because I don't think that they're just going to simply have Joe Tryon-Shoyinka as like a situational rusher. If anything, there's probably going to be more JPP because he's up there in years. So just kind of lighten the load for him. Vita Vea is just a monster up in the middle that's going to plug up every hole that you can possibly imagine in the A gaps. I don't know if what I said kind of felt wrong, but I'm just going to treat that as it is, and I'm just going to say pause. So, I mean, and Zach Martin's not going to be playing in this game too. Have they figured out all the questions on the offensive line for Dallas? This could be interesting. Can Zeke Elliott make up for that offensive line if it's struggling? Like I say, he's got 5 just monsters waiting for him every single time he leads the line of scrimmage. I think Ezekiel Elliott is a good enough running back, but I don't think any running back is going to overcome that, especially not right away with needing help on his offensive line. So you're basically pushing the responsibility of the win to Dak. Can he get the job done? Like I said, will he have enough time to? That's a hard question for me to say yes to. So I'm going to say no, that they don't have enough time. That was a bit of a voice crack, but I'm going to continue. So I think Tampa Bay gets that victory. I don't want them to. Believe me, I don't. It's not going to be pretty, especially because they're at Tampa in this September heat. Oh, man. It's not going to be a completely good showing for everyone. All right, let's just say that. The next up on my plate is going to be oh, wait a minute. I got to do this too, which I should have been doing. Okay, no, not the ticker, but folders. There, I'm going to put that there. Since I've already started. All right, so now my next up one was Seattle Seahawks against the Indianapolis Colts. Who do I trust Carson Wentz right away? Week 1 Carson Wentz is probably going to be the worst version of Carson Wentz that we'll see this week. If he improves as to, like how everyone has been saying, like, oh man, like, he's reunited with Frank Reich and he's going to make everything better again like he did against Philly or in Philly. See, that's the thing though. Like, the whole Philly roster in 2017 was loaded to the brim. Like, everywhere had depth. And the one position in the group that I don't see that for Indianapolis is their wide receivers. They got Michael Pittman, which is a good option right now. T.Y. Hilton's not going to be playing in this game. And then who's your next best option? Zach Pascal? Ooh. I'm just going to say I don't think he was drafted in fantasy rounds. Whether you had like 15 rounds or some people over here with 40. All right, I don't know how much I trust his options right there. Quentin Nelson, I don't know if he is going to be back for week 1, but just be keeping an eye on him. He's going to be a little bit shaky. I don't think that he's going to have too much of a problem with the defensive line up front for Seattle. Maybe Puna Ford can get some good looks against us, an offensive line like that, but I don't trust that matchup completely for the whole game. I don't like the edge rushers in comparison to the offensive tackles that Indianapolis has. And as we go along the list, you got a really good Seattle secondary. That's I wouldn't say really good. It's just a good linebacking core. As long as Bobby Wagner is going to be there, like the rest of everyone on the defense behind him is going to be in a good position, right? Like, because he is the quarterback of that defense, and it is without a question. Like, he still is making sure that everyone behind him and everyone on the side of him is doing what they need to do in order to get position to make a stop. So just keep that in mind. Darius Leonard is going to be doing that the same side of the ball. If you're a linebacker fan, like I am, like, this is a good matchup to see. Like, how rangy they continue to be. It's going to be really fun to see that. You got a matchup between Tyler Lockett and probably Kenny Moore and then you have DK Metcalf against Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes last year had a really good resurgence in his career over in Indy last year. Can he get that again? I know they got a different defensive coordinator. I know that they have a little bit of a difference in terms of like their secondary coach as well. So will that matter for him? We'll see, but I don't think that, just based on pure talent, is he going to be able to stand up to the likes of DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett week 1? I don't think so right now. And I think that that's just going to be enough in order for me to trust Seattle a little bit more with that matchup. Plus, you got Chris Carson, and he's still a good viable option too at running back. Like I said, like, you want a good offensive line. You're going to have, I don't know if Stone Forsythe is playing or like starting for them. I got to check their depth chart right now at right tackle. You're going to have like a sneaky good option in Dwayne Eskridge at your slot. And yeah, I mean, we'll kind of see. Like, I think that would be just good enough for Russell Wilson to make an impact on this game. So I think week 1, plus for whatever reason, Seattle does amazing in the East Coast time zones. I think it's just going to be enough for that. Next one is going to be. Wait a minute. Wait, I got a question. Yeah, I can't forget about Jack Doyle too. Like, he's still there as an option, but I think he came back from injury this last season. I didn't see any of him, right? As far as Indy's offense is concerned, that runs through Jonathan Taylor first, before it runs through Carson Wentz. And I think the offensive line supports that decision. I think Frank Reich will support that decision, at least right now, just to get the feet wet for Carson Wentz in this offense. Because right away, facing Seattle, as far as the matchup is concerned right now, I am not completely favoring that right now. And maybe that's just my gut instinct, but maybe it's not. Okay. Here's just a quick little thing. Who should I start between Aaron Rodgers and Matt Ryan out now? I don't know who to pick. I actually have the same exact conundrum. I'm not going to lie. And I'm deciding to keep Aaron Rodgers on my starter. But that's just me. You know, if you really like the matchup, do we have someone join us?
It's him. It's him. Is it man, Mike?
No. Is it?
What's going
Past
on?
midnight?
Past midnight. Absolutely, man. Look, man, I'm forever doing something. All right. I'm up editing videos. I have one uploaded already. So as soon as you guys wake up in the morning, I will drop it about 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, obviously. But yeah, man. Been a day. How everybody? Hey, man, like if y'all really enjoying what Noah is doing, please give us a thumbs up. I would love it if you guys leave a comment on how he's doing. If you really enjoying the show, should we do more of it? Quite frankly, I think he's blowing. Look, this dude, look, he's very knowledgeable. All right, I'm just gonna put it like this. He's extremely knowledgeable, as you can see, and he can control an audience. So, like, if you guys really enjoy it, let us know. But yeah, man, I'm sorry. I just had to say that. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Hey, you got to get some validation because I haven't seen a whole lot in the chat. I don't know if I'm just like being listened to, which is fine. You know, I'm expecting this to probably get a little bit more attention, like tomorrow morning.
Absolutely.
You know? Absolutely. But hey, if I'm pleasing y'all, just let me know. All right, and a thumbs up is gonna do just good enough for me right now.
Absolutely. This is his first show that he's done on his own without any of us. So I think he hit a home run. That's just my opinion.
I'm still running around the bases right now, so I'm still. So I'm just gonna continue on with my week 1 predictions.
Mm-hmm.
So next up, you got Jacksonville at Houston. Man, I don't know if y'all in the chat want to give Houston a win just off of sympathy. I don't see it anywhere on that roster, man. Like when you think back, like they went 4-12 with Deshaun Watson and with a slightly more competent head coach. I know that Bill O'Brien sucked as a general manager, but he wasn't the worst head coach. I mean, Adam Gase probably blew that out of the water. But when you think about how that team is structured, you got maybe 2 good options at wide receiver and Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins as a rookie. That defense is kind of still without an identity. You know, I don't know what their strengths are going to be. You know, they got decent players. They have, like, they're not going to be blown out every single week. I just think that they're going to be competitive but still lose. I think that Tyrod Taylor can manage a game enough so that, you know, they kind of stop the bleeding as far as the scoreboard will go.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, I think that's Trevor Lawrence's team right now. That's his good debut to have to get his feet wet.
Do they have the receivers though? Like that's I know like Tyrod Taylor is a good far as quarterback being able to manage games, but like do they have, you know, the receivers kind of make his life easier? Because if he doesn't, no, that's a whole nother story.
Well, like I said, Brandon Cooks, every single season, he will get up in the morning, he will collect you 1,000 yards and about 6 touchdowns, and then go to sleep. That's the only thing he's ever done, and it didn't matter what team he was on. It didn't matter what scheme he was with.
Somehow, you got a point there. Somehow he does always seem to hit 1,000 yards every year.
You know, so I still find that impressive. I think he's really underrated. Do I trust him as a fantasy option right now? Maybe deep in your bench, but man, like you better have some more depth at wide receiver if you're choosing anyone on the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and unless Tyrod Taylor gets, I don't know, like obliterated somehow. I don't know what happens to this poor dude. The guy just wants to start. Can life just give this man a chance? Well, his last actual opportunity was in 2016 with the Bills, and I think he was the one that took him to the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think he's still like a competent enough quarterback. He's just kind of painfully average right now.
Didn't he have like punctured lung or something last year?
Yeah, they stabbed him in the lung.
Oh, yeah.
It was week 2, like 5 minutes before the Kansas City game. Justin Herbert didn't know about it until much late. Let's get this real. Kendall Hinton had more time to prepare at quarterback for New Orleans than Justin Herbert did against Kansas City. And that was still a close game.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, you got to give your props to Justin Herbert, man.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a hell of a quarterback. Honestly, if I were to make a bold prediction as far as fantasy is concerned, like, he's the guy. It was like, I was thoroughly impressed when he played against the Falcons. It's like, I know a Falcons team is not, when you look at defensively, it's like they're not anything to be, they won't blow you out of the water. The Falcons are not going to be confused with a great defense at all. But he was making some throws for me that was just like, okay, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then you'll end up with a newer quarterback that comes into the league with it's just straight up better developed as a human, that just is able to make these throws. And I think we're starting to see a little bit more of that, especially with like Patrick Mahomes coming into the league.
Right.
And now we're starting to see a little bit more molds of him, like Trey Lance. And, it's just, but you end up with those expectations though. And that's the one thing. It's like, man, that right out the gate, that was impressive with what Justin Herbert did.
Mm-hmm.
But can he prove himself one more time yet again? Sometimes these quarterbacks don't do it. Sometimes they prove you wrong again and win an MVP like Lamar Jackson. But fact of the matter is, it's a case-by-case basis. Every offseason, every player, every position group that you have to deal with, every schedule is going to be different. So it's not an apples-to-apples comparison with everyone. That's something that you got to keep in mind. You can't just look at the development of Tua and expect the same thing, or you'd be like, oh, hey, like this is what happens with Jalen Hurts.
Right.
Because I think that they're almost like right neck and neck in terms of like the confident levels that their team has in them, like the fan base, like dogging on them for whatever reason. Like these are two people that have not proved anything right now.
Right.
And I know that that's like their biggest weakness and that's what everyone falls back on. But they didn't really have enough time to. Like, Tua was always getting flip-flop back and forth with Team Fitzpatrick. Yeah. And, Jalen Hurts and, like, Doug Peterson did not handle that team well. Like, that was the reason as to why he was fired. Like, when you put Nate Sudfeld in, like, the last game of the season, just to completely tick off all the Giants fans.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, that happens. But
quarterback position is one of those positions where I say every year, it's about consistency. And this is one of the reasons why I stated earlier. It's like Jalen Hurts is a rookie. This guy knows nothing about a lot of defenses and a lot of coaches and a lot of looks. It's a lot of looks he has not seen this year, just as a player. He hasn't seen a lot of things that a Dean Pease is going to be able to do. So it's like, that's why, earlier, it's just
and not only that, but he's got, sometimes you just want an experience and being able to captain your team on a week-by-week basis. Mm-hmm. And there's more to being a quarterback than just on the field.
Yeah.
That's what you got to remember as well. Like, there's a lot of press and there's a lot of just attention that's being drawn to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't control that well when they're young.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can take a look at some of these big quarterbacks in the past that were really talented on the field. They do amazing.
Andrew Luck.
And then they have that Vince Young moment where everything just hits them in a way where it's like, no, dude, you got to be more professional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then that's what ruined his career.
That's exactly why Andrew Luck retired, because he was mentally exhausted as a quarterback.
Right. It wasn't just the hits, because the hits kept piling on. And as long as he was going to be a quarterback for that team, the hits were still going to be piling on.
Right.
But that's Like it's not just the reason as to why like Drew Brees retired. Sometimes it's just the mental exhaustion of every single season. You're out there doing this. You're out there proving yourself, and sometimes it doesn't always come out with playoff success
or wins for that matter.
Right. Which is why, like if you're gonna admire about Ryan about anything, admire him for coming out here on a weekly basis and just giving us a consistent performance for us to go at.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
At the very least, like just give him some credit there, because he doesn't get credit anywhere anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, that was kind of understandable in 2017, or maybe that was kind of understandable in 2014. It's not really understandable now.
And that's where my frustration lies with a lot of people. It's like you have confidence in guys like Trey Lance, Justin Fields, a lot of these young quarterbacks. And a lot of quarterbacks that have proven to be inconsistent. Like you look at even with the Saints, a lot of people expecting Jameis Winston to have an incredible season. Like this dude his entire career has been inconsistent. And Matt Ryan, like we're picking on Matt Ryan because of, like, quite frankly, Julio is no longer there. Like there was a huge question with the offensive line. There was a huge question with, the running back. But for whatever reason, Matt Ryan has continued to be the focal point of everyone. And see, that's why, like, even earlier today with their live, like, just mentally checked out of that because it became it became a show where we're just talking about our feelings. Like we can't talk about facts. The facts of the matter is Jalen Hurts is a young quarterback. The fact of the matter is that the Philadelphia Eagles are a good defensive team, but they have a lot of issues in that secondary. They have a lot of issues in the linebacking core, and the Falcons, when you look up front, they're a little bit more consistent as far as their defensive line, their linebackers. I don't really trust Fletcher Cox. I know what he can do, but he's had a lot of injury issues these past few years. And it almost goes back to what we were talking about Julio Jones. Yeah, Julio Jones, when he's on the field, he can wreak havoc, but Fletcher Cox has had a lot of issues lately. Injury issues.
Sometimes it's just a paper matchup that you really like, and it's just the on-field matchup that doesn't always pan out.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is, I don't know if I just lost my thought, but I think I did. Anyways, golly, James Chang has a lot of opinions.
What's going on with you, dude? Okay. He's saying screw everybody.
Man. But anyways, like when regards to Jameis Winston, sometimes you can be that way, a little bit more up and down, wishy-washy, if you have the roster to back you up. Mm-hmm. Do you have the defense that's going to be able to get you the ball back in order to not have like extra possessions go the wrong way? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be your run game that you can support on? And I think that the Saints definitely have that with Alvin Kamara right now. But that's it. Like, that's their whole offense right now. It is just Alvin Kamara and whatever Jameis Winston can throw up, whether it's going to be to Marquez Callaway or to Juan Johnson at the tight end position, who has to convert from wide receiver, or if it's going to be, I don't know, maybe like Traquan Smith. I don't know who they got such a thin group there that it's not going to be able to compensate for that. Yeah, are the Saints a turnover running team? I don't think so.
First 7 weeks. I think he's out for the first 7 weeks with I think his ankle surgery. So it's like, yeah, it's a lot of question marks, man.
Yeah, that don't make it better. Which is why I like, in terms of the actual like situation, I would trust Ryan Fitzpatrick more because they have a defense that is able to get the ball right back. They have a run game that's able to be depended on with Antonio Gibson and Jarrett Patterson, who just exploded in the preseason. Right. And it's not like J.D. McKissick is no slouch either in the passing game. And they got a lot of good receivers as an option too. Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel and De'Ami Brown that they got in the draft. I think that they got a good thing going. And let's not forget Logan Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
So, and hey, maybe we get to see some Sammy Reyes. I would love to see him get some targets in the NFL because I think him and everyone that's in the international, from like the international, like I don't know what like development leagues or something. I think they should all get like a good shout out this year. So if Sammy Reyes is going to be the biggest representative of that community, then hey, I want him to go off. I don't want him to have a good season.
Right.
I just think it's going to be tough because Logan Thomas kind of proved himself, and like I said, there was only one football to go around.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about that in line with what we were saying with the Washington football team, week 1 Justin Herbert, we've never seen it, or week 1 Fitz magic, Fitz tragic, Fitzception, whatever you want to call him.
Whatever it shows up that.
Ooh. Like I said, his floor has been leveled up a little bit higher than someone like Jameis Winston's floor, than someone like Daniel Jones's floor, because everyone else has been proven. Especially even the offensive line. I forgot to mention that too. Like they got some hogs there.
Mm-hmm.
So can they snag up a win against like a Joey Bosa and Derwin James led defense, which I don't think we've really seen that much. I think either one of them have been hurt ever since they both went in the league.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so okay, geez, James, golly.
He may be up sipping a nighttime drink or something. Like he is angry.
Like, if I look to my right, I still got like a bottle of vodka, you know. But you ain't gonna see me drinking that right now. I think this dude needs to, like, I get that he's a super fan, but golly, show some respect, please. We got some other fan bases that watch us.
Yeah. Okay, Jay.
So whatever the case is, whatever the case may be right now, I think that Washington's a more complete team week 1 out the gate. So with that in mind, I'm going to give them a close victory there. It's going to be a competitive matchup. It's going to be one that I'm very curious to see.
Even with the Derwin James, because I don't believe Derwin James, I think he had issues. I think he had an injury coming back in the second half, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like, are Washington going to be able to put enough points with the Derwin James coming back against Chargers? Like that's the matchup that I'm especially with a Fitzpatrick, because I'm seeing James catching pick sixes in practice against other teams. So it's like that's something. That's an interesting matchup.
Derwin James is a beast, you know, and that's something that I want to see more of. You know, I want to see him like perform to like the level that he really deserves to be. You know, I don't want him to have like a Bob Sanders type of career where we like barely ever get to see him, but the only time where he's defensive player of the year. You know, like I want him to get more of an opportunity to be on the field and really benefit that Chargers defense, because they need him. Absolutely. You know, like he doesn't need anyone else because he can just dog on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But when you stretch out a player like that across the entire field, I think that there's going to be other contributors that really get more targets. Like I said, J.D. McKissick can get some catches out the backfield that Derwin James just isn't there to defend. You know, like when you have 3 good receivers and a tight end and a good running game on top of probably being able to have like 3-second consistency when it comes to Fitzpatrick being able to find time to throw the ball somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll take that chance right now. Especially because they're at home too. That maybe that can give them a little bit more of an advantage. Jeez. But that's just my pick. I'm going to move on from that game and go on to another good matchup, which I think will be the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, that's going to be an interesting game.
See, like, how much do you trust the Steelers secondary, or not the Steelers secondary, but the Steelers defense as a whole week 1?
they've been. I don't necessarily trust the defense. I think the secondary is like there's obvious. Well, I'll change that. I think the secondary will hold up, but I don't trust their front seven because like you look at last year and matchup against the Browns, like they were totally outmatched up front, and they were running crazy over them. So it's like I don't necessarily trust that Steelers front seven.
Okay, but with that in mind, that was Cleveland. Cleveland also had a dominant offensive line and a strong run game.
Right.
I can't say the same right now for the Bills. Is Devin Singletary and Zach Moss going to be combining to gash up the Steelers front?
They had a decent running game. They had a decent running game, but like as far as like the passing, like pass blocking, yeah, you have a point there. But like I think they had a decent running game, kind of added Josh Allen to it. So it's like that's the thing. Is Josh Allen going to be able to do the things that he did last year? Because if you look at the offense, the Bills' offense, kind of a gimmicky offense.
Yeah, it relies on Josh Allen to do a lot, right. And if you're in the red zone, you defend Josh Allen as a runner. You don't defend Devin Singletary because you're not really afraid of him right now. You don't defend Zach Moss because you're not afraid of him right now. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long I've done this, but probably ever since LaShawn McCoy left the Bills, I've always wanted to link a running back to the Bills in free agency, and I did not care who it was. I just wanted them to pick up someone because I couldn't trust them to draft one. But that was just me. As far as the Pittsburgh offense against the Buffalo defense, if Matt Milano was playing for the Bills, then Najee Harris is not going to be able to run the ball a lot. Matt Milano meant a lot to that Bills run defense. Right. So if he's on the field, he's going to get some tackles. He's going to put everyone in the good position in order to make a good wrap-up tackle. Tremaine Edmonds is such a beast he's a physical freak at linebacker too. Mm-hmm. You got some proven people who are already making the names for themselves on the outside, on the edge rushers like Greg Rousseau. They are really developing that second. They're really developing that Bills defense. They're trying to make it so that they can stand up to Kansas City again. And that is something that they got embarrassed by in the championship game, right? And that was with Patrick Mahomes injured.
Right.
Like, if Patrick Mahomes was able to move around even more, that's even worse of a victory for them. Or even worse of a loss for them to have to cope with. So, did they take care of everything? I think they kind of did. Retaining Ryan Dable from not having to be a coach anywhere else did wonders for Josh Allen right now as far as his value.
Yeah.
So I think that the Bills, especially because now they're playing at home, I think they're going to get the edge there. The next game on the list is going to be the San Francisco 49ers at the Detroit Lions. Okay, what would you personally make of the Lions? They're a fun team for me to watch just for Dan Campbell alone. But that's about the only reason as to why I want to pay attention to them, is the after game press conferences.
Yeah, just hearing this guy talk about how much coffee that he takes in a day. In fact, that's already intriguing. But outside of that, like I don't really want to. Like, who really cares about the Lions? Like, just to be honest. Like, I don't. Jared Goff is just like he's the quarterback. It's like what else? What's to look for? What else to look forward to?
TJ Hawkinson's going to get a lot of good targets. DeAndre Swift is a talented running back, but I think last year they gave up on him too early, and they just wanted to resort to like, oh hey, we have Adrian Peterson on our roster. Let's just run him to the ground.
Right.
I was like, dude, you have a rookie that you just drafted. Like, get him in the game. Mm-hmm. Let him take his lumps. I don't care if he dropped the game winner in week 1 last year. He still needs experience. Otherwise, he's never going to learn from that mistake next time.
Right.
Like, that's the best way, far and away, for a player to learn is to get them on the field. And we saw that in our preseason games. Mm-hmm. Like, That's what they're there for. Last year we didn't have that, so maybe that's the reason as to why they kind of gave up on him. I don't know, but I want DeAndre Swift to get more of a load now. That offensive line is very, very stout. Like if Penei Sewell gets it together on the right tackle spot, which I think they're going to keep him for whatever reason, I think they have a better chance of moving Taylor Decker to the right tackle and then just let Penei Sewell just do his thing on the left side. That's what got him drafted so high. Like, why did you draft him when you're confident in your left tackle already just to move him on the other side where he's uncomfortable and has to relearn the position?
Yeah,
it's not fair.
I honestly thought they would go with, quite frankly, I thought they would go with a receiver, but they kind of fooled me with the.
Yeah.
I understand.
Smith was right there. Everyone else that was defensive picks.
Yeah, I don't understand why they went tackle. It's like, but maybe it's like, but you still like understand. You still have Jared Goff, who has a lot of issues. Like he has a lot of issues as far as his consistency is concerned. Like if he has a decent running game, he can be that guy. It's like even that's a stretch because like even with the running game with the Rams, like he was still up and down. So it's like I didn't understand.
But you got to remember, he was inconsistent with Sean McVay.
Right.
How? Like it was just
an entire 3 points in the Super Bowl like that. He could not move the ball. He couldn't hit wide open guys. He was just a mess. And I understand he had a thumb injury, but like still.
He had a thumb injury in last year's playoff game. They didn't really stop him then.
Yeah.
He was still able to. Wait, was it him that? Wait, I can't remember. Because it was the Rams and Seahawks. And I think the Rams won that game convincingly, right? That's what got them to the next round. But, yeah, that didn't stop the rest of the team, at least.
Right.
Because they won without him. I think that was the turning point for his career. I think that was like, oh, hey, I think we're doing just fine without him. Maybe we don't have to be spending this much money on him. And let's just send him. Maybe just to send him and give ourselves a better chance to win with a higher upside in Matt Stafford. Maybe that's the route. And then maybe with the rest of the draft, like I think what Dan Campbell wanted to do was set a tone and just create an identity. And I think that he really wanted to do that with the trenches. He just wanted really tough and physical guys. And I really appreciate that about him. Like he got Penei Sewell in the first. I think his next pick was Levi Onwuzurike, another like destroyer in the trenches on the D tackle position. Then he got Amon-Ra St. Brown, a tough receiver. He got Ifeatu Melifonwu as a secondary corner. And that guy was just all over, and he was just super aggressive. I really like that. I kind of wanted the Falcons to draft Melifonwu. I'm not gonna lie, but I digress. I still enjoy our draft class, But as far as the identity is concerned, I think they have that, and I think that whoever that they have there, I think is going to kind of want to be there now, And that was the biggest issue. Like when you were on the Lions at any given point before this, there was no identity for you to enjoy. Right. There was no like you had to be the talent to make people like you had to be the reason as to why other people's butts were in your seats at the games. And that's a lot to ask for these people.
Right.
I know that they're kind of entertainers at the end of the day, that they got to do really good at the jobs, but not everyone is cut out for this like 1% of the 1% league. And they have consistently shown that, whether it would be through their offensive line struggles, whether they be through their running back struggles or especially their defensive struggles, like Matt Stafford has had a pretty similar career to Matt Ryan in that regard. But one thing that Matt Ryan has done that Matt Stafford hasn't done a whole lot of, and that was, first of all, stay on the field. But second of all, was to make a statement against like really good defenses, and really good teams. I haven't seen a whole lot of Matt Stafford doing that. Like whatever teams that he won against, maybe they shouldn't have been behind them in the first place. You don't know, like because that was one of the other things too. Like they were boasting about his comeback wins, how he had a lot of them in a little bit of the time, which is great, as a stat to have. But go back to those teams that he beat. I think that they should have handedly convinced them that they were the winners from a very early on that stage in the game. But I digress. I think San Francisco, I don't care who they throw in at quarterback, whether it's a rotation or whatever they decide to do, it's not going to be enough or it's going to be too much for Detroit, at least week one. That's such a uphill battle for them to muster up. I know that we have a couple of people in the chat, but I don't really see it anymore. I think that this guy has just taken over, and that is not the best.
Mind about that, he's lost his mind.
Hey man, that ain't the best thing for me on my first stream. I want some people talking. I want some validation. I want some feedback. Give me something. I'm not just talking into people's ears.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that quarterback rotation for the 49ers is a good idea. Just name a starter. Just if you're gonna do that, just put Lance in and just let him struggle.
Because the worst case scenario is that you flip him in every other drive, and you're giving both of them an equal chance to get hurt.
Right.
And you're giving them half the playbook because you got to play Jimmy G one way and you got to play Trey Lance another.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Kyle Shanahan is doing. I think he's been missing Matt Ryan. That's what he's been doing. He's missed a consistency at the quarterback position for him to really win with.
It's interesting that you say that because I went back and watched the Super Bowls. I saw a lot of formations, especially in the gun, like him using those exact same looks. Before, he didn't use a lot of gun. Like when he was with the Browns in Washington. Like he may have done like the pistol formation with RG3, but like he used a lot of gun. And typically with his formations, he liked to use the tight ends. And he didn't use a lot of that. So I think you're right. I think he really is missing Matt Ryan.
So, I mean, like, who really won the matchup in the future? Like, in that departure, I think it was still the Falcons. Like, I know that the 49ers went to the Super Bowl recently, but if they had Matt Ryan, they would have won that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
They have Matt Ryan, he easily wins that.
Emmanuel Sanders doesn't get overthrown. I'll tell you that much.
Ooh. Wow.
Anyways, moving on to the Minnesota Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals.
Is this really a question? Like, if this is an easy game, to be honest.
Yeah, man. Bengals all the way. Jamar Chase going to catch everything.
Oh, my God. Yeah,
Jamar Chase is already fighting off draft bust reports.
Oh, my God. It's preseason. He played in preseason. Is already fighting off that. Like, oh, man.
It ain't the best.
But it's Burrows. Like, can Burrows stay healthy? Like, that's another question mark. Like, Bengals are already a mess, and that's the first couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of like Burrow up against the Week 1 Vikings defense, and everyone's back. It's another like revamped roster, like what New England is doing. With all those opt-outs that they're trying to get back, and it's going to be a different look. Like with all these people, like like some free agency moves as well. They got Harrison Smith locked up for another couple of years, which is fine. They got Patrick Peterson as at least a name to look out for. Is he going to do as much? He didn't do that great in Arizona last year, and I think he was still kind of getting overpaid there, which is why they sent him off.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still Joe Burrow against like Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr, and Daniel Hunter is going to be coming back. You have, like I said, Harrison Smith, the hitman.
Mm-hmm.
You got some good options up in the middle, like not Linval Joseph, but was it Pierce or something? It's Pierce. I can't remember I'm sorry for forgetting the D tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. But could look that up, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. The point is, I don't think that they're going to have a great enough of a matchup against Minnesota. Just everywhere else, I know that the secondary, like their corners, aren't going to be like the greatest. I do like the matchups there with Burrow as receivers, even if it's not Jamar Chase right away. Like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are their own guys right now. Like they don't have to rely on a whole lot. And if you get a possession, if you get a lead up on them early, maybe that's when you can start to use Joe Mixon again.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how that goes. I do like Joe Mixon. I just think he's in a terrible spot in terms of like his usefulness on the team. So maybe he can get a little bit better of a start. I would want to, because I don't like to see like good talent be
wasted like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
about Michael Pierce, if I'm not mistaken.
Michael Pierce, that's what it was. Next up, we got the Jets at the Panthers.
Oh gosh.
So, funny thing about the Jets is, for whatever reason, they don't do so bad week one. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's like the week one is like the only week that they've been prepared for. Maybe they prepared the entire offseason ever since they got the schedule, and it's just like, you know what, we're just gonna throw all our eggs in this basket.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Maybe it's just kind of like my, I don't know, maybe it's just the Mandela effect for me. But point is, I still kind of take my chances with the Jets, as crazy as that sounds. Just simply for the matter that if Brian Burns, which is a terrifying pass rusher for the Panthers, he is like probably, if not the actually most explosive off the line in all of the NFL right now. If he can get neutralized by either Mekhi Becton or whoever that they had at right tackle, which I don't think is a name that's worth saying, or maybe they slide Elijah Vera Tucker at right guard, like they got some good build-up pieces right now on the offensive line, which is a good thing for a quarterback to have to deal with.
Yeah, I like Vera Tucker.
I'm fine with the receiving core that they have there. Corey Davis seems to be doing a lot better than he has in Tennessee, and that's good for his career, but that's still confusing for us as the rest of the fan group, because I don't know if he's going to keep that up. He hasn't before, and you think about like, oh yeah, he hasn't been doing that bad. He was a 5th pick overall in the draft at one point.
Yeah.
Like that is not the kind of production that you want him to have. So he's been underwhelming, and maybe Zach Wilson can save him. I want that to be the case,
especially when you talk about, offense where you have a 2,000-yard rusher and you still, you didn't have a great season. So that's a huge question mark.
Right. I mean, Ryan Tannehill loves play action. And why would he not? He's got Derrick Henry, but that's like when you take that away from Tannehill, he is not good under pressure at all. And that's one of the biggest deciding factors that would make me want to push Matt Ryan above Ryan Tannehill in like some sort of a ranking or tier list, because Matt Ryan does not struggle that much under pressure, if at all. And consistently, it's like, you see a huge drop off when you take a look at Ryan Tannehill's numbers when he's under pressure.
Just look at the playoff game last year. He didn't play very well once they figured out that like they could stop Derrick Henry. Like he had to take over the game, and he failed miserably.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. It's like when you look at the Titans offense, are you afraid of Ryan Tannehill first, or are you afraid of Derrick Henry first? The answer is always going to be Derrick Henry first. And I don't care who they have at receiver right now. It's like, it's kind of crazy to think about. But as soon as the game is dependent on Ryan Tannehill, and mind, this was with Arthur Smith.
Right, with Arthur Smith.
With Arthur Smith, Arthur Smith still didn't trust him to throw that many passes in the playoff games.
Yeah. He still put the game in Derrick Henry's.
And once that was done, the Titans were done. Because their last good defense that they were able to have was under Dean Pease in 2018. Dean Pease was low-key the reason as to why Matt LaFleur even has a job.
Right.
Did you realize that in the 2018 Tennessee Titans team that offense went 27th in point scoring?
Mm-hmm.
And he got the position as a Packers head coach? How?
Right.
That offense was not impressive. He
Really?
barely used Derrick Henry in comparison to what Arthur Smith did. How? Aaron Rodgers is keeping his job just for the fact that he likes him. That's got to be it, right? Maybe he's just a better face to look at for press conferences than Mike McCarthy. And that's not to say that that's the main reason, but it's a reason, you know?
It's let's just be honest.
Going back to the Jets and Panthers, though, I trust Zach Wilson right now more than I do Sam Darnold. And that's a weird thing to say because I think they've honestly been in the same boat, you know, but Darnold struggled to control the boat. And this is Zach Wilson's first time at it.
Are they going to be
I think he's got a better core around him. I think that the defense will get better, if not like talent-wise, than just scheme and personnel-wise, because you got to remember Robert Saleh is the head coach there. You know, and for what it's worth for defensive coaches, they make some sort of an impact early on in their like defensive coaching careers. You know, maybe that's the case with them. You know, Jets were at one point known for their defense being really stout. They can get to that point somewhere if they trust on him right now. Just going to give him a couple more years to figure it out in the draft and whatnot, but I don't see that happening right away. And I think that at some point the Jets, either with or despite Zach Wilson, could at least a little bit more like, that's going to be a tough game for them, instead of like this pushover team. But as far as the Panthers are concerned right now, they have talent. Can Christian McCaffrey single-handedly win this game? Oh, absolutely. But once you know that that's the formula coming in, you can stop that. We've done it before. Like, if you don't think that our defense was that good, we've stopped Christian McCaffrey before. You know, we've stopped Alvin Kamara before. As soon as you know, like, what the offense is going to look like as far as going into, like, an early-on game, knowing that they don't have that many tricks in the book, so they can just try to rely on the talent of the players. You know, that's an easier job for the Jets defense, despite them not being able to have a whole lot of like people on the team right now.
Line. Do they have enough on the offensive line? Because you look at Pat Eifin, so Taylor Moton has been inconsistent for the most part. So like offensive line, do they have enough?
You know, like what I kept telling people is that when you draft running backs, you draft their offensive line. That's why I didn't trust Saquon Barkley. I didn't trust certain other running backs, but I trusted guys like Nick Chubb. I trusted guys like Jonathan Taylor because they, for what it's worth, they're going to have a lot of touches and they're going to get a good opening for them when they start getting handed the ball. Is that the case for the Panthers right now? We'll see. But are they going to be this one-dimensional? They better not if they want to try to be competitive this year.
It's a long year for them. And they're going to have to invest in a quarterback again.
All right. You can only trust on your running back for so much. All right. Every team had to realize that at some point. The Rams did that at one point with Marshall Faulk. Then they did it again with Steven Jackson. Then the Chargers had to do that with LT. Like, for as great as your running back is, they can only take you so far.
Yeah. Save it Todd Gurley also. You throw Todd Gurley in there.
And
a few years before they realized
he took you all the way up until the Super Bowl,
right?
And then C.J. Anderson had to take over.
Yeah,
that's how inconsistent it can be for a running back if you start to rely on them too much. And if you want another example, Derrick Henry last year. So,
yeah,
it's just a matter of making sure that your offense isn't so one-dimensional. Like, if you want to run the dang ball like we keep preaching, then you need somewhat of a passing attack as well. It's good to be balanced enough. I'm not saying have God sense at every position, because that's impossible, unless if you're Tampa Bay. But when it comes to the well-roundedness of the Panthers right now, you got Robbie Anderson, that's deep threat. You got Terrace Marshall, that's going to be another good option as a receiver. You got
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore, yeah. Man, I kind of forgot about him. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. What?
I don't know how many times you've seen this whole comparison about like, oh my goodness, DJ Moore is actually better than Calvin Ridley, and then they proceed to get DJ Moore in like in the 10th round of their fantasy drafts and feel good about it, knowing that there's an underrated pick because they know deep down it's not true.
Right.
Like, come on, man, Calvin Ridley's getting picked first round, and you know it. DJ Moore is never gonna get that production.
Absolutely not. Unless they go like volume, like we talk about. This is one thing I always talk about with receivers, like volume targets. Like he's going to have decent numbers because he's primarily the number one option on the Panthers team. So he's going to get, he's going to be a Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, he's pretty much the only weapon. So his numbers going to be berserk.
Yeah, I mean, that'll do good for your fantasy teams, but it's not going to go do for the Panthers.
Right.
So there's it's just a gut feeling, but I just think the Jets can overcome this game. Moving on next to another good matchup, Cardinals at Titans.
Ooh. I'm gonna go.
I think so here's the thing. Like, these two teams are kind of like they're kind of the median in statistics terms. They're the standard or the bar as to whether or not your team is going to be good or not. And it's going to be interesting for them to both play each other. Because I think that Cardinals, like, if you can beat the Cardinals, then you can probably beat some other good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you end up with some closer matchups than you'd expect, but maybe not. It's just it's a measuring stick. I think of Arizona right now as a good measuring stick for them to have, because they're good enough on offense and they're good enough on defense. And sometimes I think that way with the Titans. I think they're strong on offense. I'm not hearing a whole lot of good. I'm sometimes hearing some good reports like Elijah Molden, but not hearing every report come out good for the Titans, especially when it comes to execution.
Right.
When it comes to this game, I'm going to give the Titans the early edge, and I think that's just for the fact that they're at home. Maybe they can feed Derrick Henry the ball a little bit more. The Cardinals do have some dogs at linebacker, though. All right, let's be real. Isaiah Simmons is going to have his full year under the playbook. Zaven Collins is another, just a monster. That's just going to be rangy. He's going to be big. He's going to stuff the run. He's going to be in play coverage. That's unfair, man. That's dang near Brian Urlacher status already, just in terms of his raw talent.
The J.J. Watt, even Chandler Jones, those guys.
Chandler Jones is going to come back, man. Like, golly, every single time this dude is always on the ranks of like having the most sacks. Somehow, and no one talks about him.
Yeah, somehow he's always top 3 in sacks.
So I think he's going to be competing with Myles Garrett this year. And if not him, then TJ Watt.
Yeah.
So that's that. But let's not sleep on Chandler Jones now. As far as that secondary is concerned, it's getting better. They do like some good draft picks with Byron Murphy. Buda Baker's going to be all around the field. And, hey, sometimes that's enough. I don't know what the heck was going on with Malcolm Butler. I think he retired. I think he was like contemplating retirement or something.
Yeah, he was he's back though.
I don't know, man. If you want to win now, then maybe you can I don't know, maybe Wills year out of the contract and retire, and then just kind of like move on somewhere else. I know other teams are trying to do that, like Marshawn Lynch. Like he retired and then kind of snuck his way out the back door and then joined the Raiders. Yeah, maybe you see that with him. I don't know. Their secondary, it kind of begins and ends with Byron Murphy right now, which is a lot to ask for him. But and that's kind of the reason as to why I think the Titans are going to win. It's just not a fun matchup for either having to line up against AJ Brown or Julio. It's not fun for a young guy to have to go with that. So whatever we think about Julio on the field, I think week 1, that's going to be his biggest showing, just for the simple fact that he might get more targets or he might get more like on-field snaps than what he's been like used to or what he's been allowed in Atlanta. Because sometimes he had too much of a luxury to just like, I'm just going to take the snap off and I'm just not going to play as hard. I'm just going to, I know, Matt. I know you want me in the red zone. But, I just don't really feel like it right now. I just got this hamstring. I got this toe. It was always something, right? And I was like, all right, fine. I can do without you, man. You can't do without me.
If somehow the Cardinals can produce a consistent pass rush, like that's going to make it difficult on Tannehill. And he's definitely going to have to be, a passer. So it's like they're really going to have to establish the running game because, again, like I think the Cardinals have a pretty good offense as far as their explosiveness, but it's going to come down to whether or not can defensively. I just don't have a lot of hope in Tannehill. Like that's my thing. They're gonna have to run the ball. If they don't run the ball, it's gonna be a long night for them. It's gonna be a long day.
Yeah, I mean it kind of goes back on like when us Falcons fans are used to this. Whenever a quarterback is given a new offensive coordinator, they tend to struggle, and that's completely normal.
All right,
but it's better for a quarterback to still kind of struggle and not have to worry about still being the leader of the team.
Right.
So Derrick Henry is still kind of saving him in that aspect. Almost kind of similar to what Matt Ryan was dealing with Michael Turner. And at the time, we didn't know Michael Turner was going to be that big of a deal. He came out of nowhere in that San Diego backfield.
Like 1,800 yards and 20, almost 17, 18.
In his first year.
Yeah.
It's like, golly. I mean, obviously, like that Lions game in week 1 definitely helped. Right. Who'd have thought that was going to be like the determining factor for the rest of that Lions defense? I think we just took the soul right out of them, and it never got back until they drafted Matt Stafford.
Right.
But yeah, that was one of the best running back performances I'd ever seen. And stats back that up. So, I think it's still just too early for the Cardinals to be like on a roll. I know that they're going to have to be on a roll, and these are going to be the games that they're going to have to win if they want to be in the playoffs.
They're going to have to depend on their defense to kind of lead them until they get in a rhythm. Because you still have AJ Green, Hopkins, of course, and let's not forget Rondale Moore. All right, that guy is explosive. He was only drafted so low because he was short, but he was probably one of the more talented receivers in this draft class. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the guy that I actually had on my draft board. I really wanted him because of his explosiveness. So that's our thoughts on that. Who is this going to be a potential AFC Championship matchup in the future? Browns at Chiefs. Ooh. You know what? Upset of the week. I'm going Browns. Oh, wow.
Just for the simple fact that there is a weakness on the Kansas City team. And we didn't just discover that in the Super Bowl. We discovered that elsewhere because their defense is not complete.
Mm-hmm.
The Cleveland's defense right now can still be complete. And their offense definitely sure is. I mean, they brought back everyone. So they got the chemistry this time around. Like they got a full year under Kevin Stefanski. That got a full offseason with him. Baker and OBJ is going to have quite the hookup now this year, because they were on pace to do that and be a lot better last year, despite all the statistics and saying that. So yeah, give me the upset with the Browns. I don't think a lot of people are going to be choosing that game for various reasons, because Patrick Mahomes can literally throw himself back into a game.
And they're dealing with new offensive tackles also. You got to throw it in there. So the chemistry may not be there for the Chiefs.
Maybe not week one. Maybe I don't know if Clyde Edwards-Helaire has had fumbling issues in the past, but I know that defense on the Browns is going to be very opportunistic.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you that much. I know that they've been practicing that. Because they just want extra possessions, and they want to be able to control the ball with the run game, which is something that I can't completely say with the Chiefs. I know that they can throw themselves into a win, but can they completely run themselves into a win? The last time I saw that happen was week 1, and we already saw that what happened with Houston. Mm-hmm. I thought that was going to be a good measuring stick for how Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to perform. Turns out it wasn't really that case. So when you think about that, you think about the offensive line, like I said. We think about the defense still having a hole somewhere. I probably didn't mean to say it like that.
That came out. Oh, that came out. Hey, it happened.
Moving on, we got the next coming game. It's a divisional matchup between Miami and New England. Now,
I think this is a blowout.
For who?
I honestly think I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Miami blows out. But I'm just not convinced that a rookie quarterback is the way to go, even for a guy like Bill Belichick, because he's gonna lean on his defense to win his game, And as Ramondre Stevens enough as the running game. James White is no longer there.
Yeah, it's like him and Harris.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's enough for them to kind of really take it. I wouldn't bet against the Patriots, but I think Miami has a solid defense where they can kind of at least shut down a rookie quarterback.
They got a loaded secondary, and it's pretty sneaky. And I know that we didn't really show that off that well in the joint practice because our receivers must be that tremendously good in order for us to have that many highlights against that number one camp. Just remember that Xavier Howard is legit.
Yeah.
Byron Jones is as a viable second option.
Yeah, he's a solid.
Noah Igbenogany, something. It's not me. Igbenogany or something. He's still he's got first round talent.
Mm-hmm.
That was proven in 2020. And then you got some viable options at safety. You got some good options at linebacker. I'm not going to say that they're the best and stuffing in any particular position, but I think that they're going to gel just good enough. And would you say that the matchup between Jalen Phillips versus whatever kind of tackle that they'll have on for the Patriots side is going to be much of a mismatch too? Because
I forgot
Jalen Phillips was someone that
Phillips. Oh man,
that guy is a monster. He reminds me of both Bosa brothers combined.
Yeah, he has a motor on him. He does not stop.
So we'll see how that goes. I think they definitely got the pass rush to make Mac Jones's day easier to ruin. And then as far as everything else, is they got Henry, they got Johnny Smith. They're paying them a ton of money, so they're gonna get the ball. I kind of like a few I find like a few matchups here and there, but it's not going to be that serious. It's but at the same time, I don't really consider that much of a blowout. I still kind of consider it a close game because I don't think Tua is set up to blow out a team right now.
That's the biggest question mark. There's Tua.
You know, like is Myles Gaskin going to blow out a team on his own? Probably not. But you know, you got some good options. You got Devontae Parker. You know, you can't forget about him. Jalen Waddle is going to. Yeah, he's going to have that. He's going to have his own set of rules. I don't know if they're going to be completely using him like Tyreek Hill.
Right.
But just know that he can. You know, he was no slouch in Alabama. He was picked. Wasn't he the first receiver taken? I think so, right? In last year's draft. It wasn't the first receiving option because that was Kyle Pitts. But I think after that, it was like, yeah, Jalen Waddle was 6.
6? Was it? Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think he was. Yeah.
So just remember that this guy was drafted above Devontae Smith.
Yeah, wow.
He didn't play last year. He was an opt-out from last year. So maybe that's why it's been a while. It's been a minute since you've seen that. But I think that Miami can definitely move the ball downfield. Can they punch it in consistently? Maybe that's Mike Gesicki's job. Maybe that's Myles Gaskin's job in a screen game. Maybe that's Tua's job if he just sees an opening in a man coverage and just takes off. However the game may turn out, I don't think that Tua is going to be that great in order to just completely wipe out a Bill Belichick-led defense.
Yeah. It's definitely Gilmore. You know, you got to factor him also.
Yeah, him and J.C. Jackson.
Yeah.
2 really good guys. They're bringing like all these different opt-outs. I was like, what, 8 on the team? Mm-hmm. That's insane. So hopefully they can get themselves back in contention. I don't see it right now. For whatever reason, I can't think of them as a playoff team right now. It's a lot to ask for a rookie quarterback to take them there. And it's not as if that, you know, it's not as if Bill Belichick never had to deal with that before with a young quarterback with the size and stature and play ability of Tom Brady. But I don't think that this roster is built up the way that the early 2000s rosters were for New England. So
yeah, that was a veteran team when Tom Brady appeared. So that's a completely different.
You know, I'm kind of convinced that anyone in that draft class, and I know that people have talked all sorts of mess about those other 6 quarterbacks that were taken before him, but I feel like any of those quarterbacks could have taken that team to the postseason at least.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe they don't get as far as like doing what they did against St. Louis in the Super Bowl in 2001, but yeah, I mean that team was up and ready to go no matter who was their quarterback. And that was kind of proven when you looked at their other games and you looked at the Tom Brady stats early on in his career. Like, he was not reliant. Like, he was not relied upon at all in order to win those playoff games.
Right.
That's something that a lot of people kind of forget.
Because of the defense. They won a lot of games because of their defense.
Yeah, I remember that. Wasn't there like a whole Steelers matchup where they didn't score a single offensive touchdown and yet they scored 24 points?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Like, I don't care who you are of a quarterback. Like, that's something that everyone can benefit from.
That's a huge.
You know, like. So I don't want to hear all this mess and say that Tom Brady was responsible for all that.
Yeah.
There was plenty of games. There was a good point in time where he had more interceptions than touchdowns in the playoffs.
Yeah. He's done that quite a few times.
You know what? He's got a better winning percentage when he throws 3 picks than Aaron Rodgers does when he throws 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fair.
He's always had the luxury of a great defense.
So, speaking of a great defense, we're going to have the Broncos at the Giants. I think these 2 teams are sneakily loaded on defense.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting game. That's going to be a 6-10-7 game, 13.
Yeah. But who do you have benching that one out? Because I'm kind of going Broncos.
I'm going to go Broncos. I just don't.
I think just for the simple fact that Teddy's safer with the ball.
Yeah, Teddy. Yeah, because he's not going to make a ton of mistakes. You saw that when he played against the Falcons, and when he was with the Saints. So he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So I got to go Broncos.
Yeah, and that's not going to do the best when it comes to like the value of all their receivers. But I think Devontae Williams right now, their running back from North Carolina, can get them in a better position to win a football game, and especially the defense, considering that they're facing Daniel Jones. Guys, get the Broncos defense. I don't trust Daniel Jones. Get the Broncos defense on your fantasy leagues. That's like the best matchup that you can have right now.
That's safe.
Yeah, I mean, you're almost kind of guaranteed a defensive touchdown when you choose them. So, I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time on that, because Von Miller's coming back, and Bradley Chubb was detained, but I don't think that's going to matter that much when you consider the rest of the defensive members. So, they were able to win games without Von Miller. I'm pretty sure they can win a game without Bradley Chubb. That's all I got to say about that. Next up, we got hopefully the Packers smacking the Saints all over the place.
I don't think there's a hopefully. I just don't think they're
Very good. And yeah.
I'm only saying hopefully because I don't want them to show the mercy rule, and I want them to smack them to Kingdom Come.
Right. I don't think this is a close game.
Guys, if you couldn't get Denver, because I just told everyone else before, try to get the Packers defense.
Right, get that, because they're gonna have opportunity to get a lot of opportunities, and I believe James is gonna make mistakes, and you give Aaron Rodgers more opportunities after a mistake, he's gonna capitalize off of it. If you need to be able to trust the Packers defense again. How many interception opportunities did they have against Brady in that championship game? Good God.
Right.
They had way too many and dropped all of them. It's that was just so frustrating to watch. But I don't think that they're going to have that same kind of problem now.
Right.
So hopefully the Packers will do their job, and Aaron Rodgers can have himself an MVP week 1 performance, like I know that he has in him still. Then the Sunday night matchup, which would be the Bears at the Rams. This is going to be our second to last matchup.
Man.
Ooh, I'm going Rams all the way because Andy Dalton's starting. That's that. And for all you people that are like, oh, hey, we should have got Justin Fields, I don't think Justin Fields swings the knob. I don't think he swings that needle anywhere else.
Yeah, that's not a good matchup for the Bears at all. So, I'm going to go Rams just because I believe with Matt Stafford, veteran quarterback with a consistent, a proven play caller. Yeah, that's going to be I'm going to go out on the limb and say this also. I think Matt Stafford is going to be in the run for MVP because you put him with a great play caller, Sean McVay. I think that's a perfect matchup because no longer does he have to worry about his defense blowing leads. He can sit back and check the ball down, and he can do that.
If only Matt Ryan had a defensive coordinator that would give him halftime adjustments.
Yeah.
Think of all the MVPs that man would have had.
Oh, my gosh. That's it.
That's all I got to say about that.
Just hold the lead.
Because, you said this before. We showed the blueprint of how to beat both teams that were in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Come on. We were one play away from both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's when you put it together, you end up with one of the biggest blowouts in all of last season against the Raiders.
Yeah.
So it's when this team can put it together, if their first half adjustments are so good to the fact that they don't even need to adjust, or that even if they don't adjust, it's still not going to have much of an impact on the rest of the team. that they're going to do just fine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the offense was capable of putting up points with a bad head coach in Dan Quinn, with a bad offensive coordinator in Dirk Cutter. I think that Arthur Smith is leaps and bounds of an improvement in those positions. And guys, like, Dean Pease has himself such a good resume. Like, look back at the resume that he was able to muster up in not just New England, but
And
also in Baltimore and also in Tennessee.
He hasn't had a lot of. We're talking about talent, especially in the secondary. He hasn't really had to deal with, a lot of talent. Like, he had a lot of talent up front, but his secondary is not that. They've not been that great.
Yeah, his worst season as a defensive coordinator was in 2015. And even then, it was 24th in the league, and they still had more defensive touchdowns than the Falcons had last year.
Right.
So even at his worst, with a worse roster that was fielding out for the Ravens then than what we have now, he still did so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, guys, his floor is so much better than everyone else's defensive coordinator's ceilings.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something to keep in mind. Keep in mind when you got to think about the way that our expectations are for our games and our opponents. Because you look at the rest of the list, man. I don't see us having a whole lot of losses, and that's just for the fact that I think that we can get a groove going. We can get a statement win early. We can get some momentum. Make it seem like, oh, hey, like, this isn't going to be the same team like before.
And this is a favorable schedule. Like, this is.
Oh, yeah. Fourth place schedule. That benefits everyone.
Right.
So, you piece that up together, and a lot of those teams are non-playoff teams. They're kind of rebuilding. We're not supposed to be, despite what everyone else outside of our fan base has been saying, which I am so sick and tired of that. Like, how many times does Arthur Smith have to tell you? I don't know how many times does Terry Fontenot have to tell y'all. We're not rebuilding, guys. First of all, we can't afford to.
Right. That's the
and
first.
second of all, we have too much of a favorable matchup right now in our own division to do something. We can't expect the Panthers to be terrible forever. Nor can we expect the Saints to be terrible forever.
You can't expect Tom Brady to play for 3 more years.
Yeah, Tom Brady has just reached the mountain. He can't get higher than that mountain. There is no mountain anymore for him. He has to make a decline at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So, him and the rest of that team. All right, because they stayed the same. Like, there's only so many improvements when you're the exact same.
Right.
I know that it worked first. I know that it worked once before, but you can't rely on that to keep happening and to keep working.
At some point, your luck is going to run out.
And then hopefully to get this under 2.5 minutes. Dear God, I talk a lot. We have the Ravens at the Raiders for the Monday night matchup. And if I'm just gifted another upset of the week.
Oh. Wow. You're going there.
Give me Raiders over Ravens week 1.
Ooh.
So, do you believe that
Lamar Jackson has turned the corner as far as being a passer? Think he has enough to be?
I don't think it's his fault that he's going to lose this game. If I'm going to make this prediction and it comes true, it's not going to be his fault.
Okay.
I'm not always going to go straight for the quarterback and say, like, this is the reason as to why the team lost. Like, that's not fair. Because how many times have people have done that to Matt Ryan, and we've had to defend him? I'm not gonna give people a double standard to deal with, and I'm not gonna give people a different bar to set themselves at. So, if the Ravens are gonna lose this game, it's gonna be by other means. It's probably going to be because of J.K. Dobbins not being there, and maybe Gus Edwards struggles, maybe whoever that they have after that struggles. I heard they signed Le'Veon Bell. If he's given touches early, I don't trust that matchup right now.
Yeah.
It's like maybe you gotta baby him. You gotta babysit him into your system before you start like, oh hey, here you go, Le'Veon Bell, week 1, and it's like, oh no, like what did you do? Like you had such high potential, and the New York and with Kansas City.
I kind of. What do you put like that? I actually agree with you. Unless
Who's going to give you the biggest threat outside of Mark Andrews?
Yeah, I don't.
Rashad Bateman's not playing. Hollywood Brown hasn't really proved himself.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree that.
I do think that there is somewhat of an advantage between like guys like Max Crosby, maybe Cleveland Farrell can kind of live up to his number 4 situational pass rusher pick.
Oh gosh.
I don't know how many safeties that the Raiders are going to field. I know they cut like Carl Joseph, but that only leaves them with like 6.
Right.
Because for whatever reason, they just kept drafting the safety position. I was like, oh hey, I'm gonna go with Trevon Merrick. I was like, sure, that's cool. Yeah, fill up that position. I'm gonna get Tyree Gillespie. It's like, oh, okay, that was fine. And then I'm gonna get this other guy. I can't remember all of them, but I know that the Devon Diablo. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna get him too. And I'm going to bring back Carl Joseph. And I'm going to have Jonathan Abrams come back from thing. And I'm going to have Tanner Muse come back. I was like, why?
I have no idea what his plan is on defense. Like, I'm trying to make sense of it, but I can't make any sense of what he's doing on defense.
It's like, I think I know why they're doing that, because they don't trust anyone on the linebacker position.
No.
And they want tacklers. Devon Diablo is a tackler.
Yeah.
Tyree Gillespie can stop a couple of people. Javon Merrick is a bit of a tackler, but he's still got to learn. But they're heavily relying on that front 4 and like the likes of Damon Arnett and whatnot to really stand up in the secondary. Which are they capable of on a consistent basis? No, but they're capable of doing that in Baltimore. And I think also having the advantage of being at home in this black hole or in this Roomba, whatever you want to call it, that they're playing at, I think that's going to be a huge advantage for that momentum.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is the Raiders' game to lose for whatever reason. And not to mention, like, the Raiders have been known to surprise some teams. Just like early on in the season, like they did that last year with the Saints. I was like, oh, wow, okay, thanks. Thanks for that win against the Saints.
And Carr is obviously one of the most underrated quarterbacks, so he can definitely have a big game.
Right. Like I mentioned his fantasy value. I was like, it is not high enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I trust a couple of those matchups. And, well, I guess we ran out of games. There's only 16 of them, so.
Hey man, you did wonderful, man. This is like it's definitely something. I would definitely encourage you to continue. Obviously, the people like it. They've been in here from the beginning to the end. So, like,
I know, man. I appreciate everyone that stuck around this long. Because golly, sometimes I can't get my own friends to listen to me for that long. Some of my own friends, they can only stand me for so long. I'm like, all right, dude, we get it.
Hey, you're in the right business. This is what we do. We talk. All right. So they talk. They love to hear us talk. They love sports, and like this is what we do. So like I said, man, we appreciate it.
All right, now everyone over on the East Coast, please go to bed. Golly. Some of y'all got to wake up for work.
Oh, we good, man.
I know that I've never lost any time because I was an essential worker at my job. Mm-hmm. I never really got that feeling of like, oh hey, I know I could just get to relax, during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been constantly working. And I want to break some of these people, man, because it is tough. I'm working at an understaffed location too, and that's never a fun thing because that requires everyone to be the jack of all trades.
Oh wow! So you really have no days.
And it's retail, so
retail. See, yeah, I totally understand that.
It's a cross between working retail and working at a warehouse.
Yeah, I had nightmares. I used to work at a warehouse, and I quit in 2 days. So. Good for you.
But I got a football fan that's there that just loves to talk football. He's a Raiders fan, but hey, his second favorite team was Atlanta for the longest time.
Hey.
So I'm glad I got him to admit that. Like it's been tough, being in this section of California. Mm-hmm. I don't have a whole lot of people. Like, I never actually grew up with a Falcons fan as a friend.
Oh, really?
No. And that's something that probably you Atlanteans will never be able to experience. It's like, can you love your team for this long outside of the state?
That's not a lot. It's not a lot in New York. It's a lot of, California. I know for sure there's not a lot of coverage outside, and we really don't have anything in
man, like whatever kind of merch that I have on right now is all ordered online because I can't go anywhere.
Wow.
Like this hat, like this shirt was obviously for Bootleg Football Podcast, which some of y'all can probably listen to, because if you want, like, obviously if you stuck around for 2.5 hours here, you can stick around like for their 3 hours long podcast. All right, it's not that much of a difference, and they are even more knowledgeable than I am.
Right.
So consider that. But hey, I'm also going to be here for Wednesdays, so pay attention to us as well. And hopefully I can keep this up. Maybe I don't have to control the entire thing like last time. All of you writers that are watching this later on, thank you a lot, because I'm getting a lot of publicity, and all y'all could have had this.
That's a whole other story, y'all. Y'all don't want to know about that one.
Will Hunter had one more question because he wanted to be responded to. You guys just love sports or went to school for it? I don't care about validity. Just curious. I'm just a football fan, man. I'm nothing more, nothing less. But this is the sport that I've attached myself to ever since I was like 6. And like I said, like my first actual season of watching the Falcons, because I've watched the other teams and I've played Madden and I've played of other things, and I've kind of like learned the offense and learned like the strategies of the game early on as a kid, because that was pretty much all I had in order to keep the entertainment value up. But the first season that I ever got to see was 2007.
Oh wow, really?
For the Falcons.
Wow.
That was couldn't have had a worse beginning.
Yeah, that's
as a
what
fan
I was
I had.
say. Dang. So there's no question whether or not you're a real Falcons fan.
Man, like I said, I've seen the in between years of Michael Vick. I never even got to see like the completeness of Michael Vick, like in his prime, in like 2002 or 2004, because I just simply wasn't old enough for it. And I can only look so much. Like the Game Pass doesn't go up until 2009. So. It's like I can only have so many outlets to watch that as in the previous things. So, but ever since then, like I wanted to be a football fan first, and that's what was allowing me to kind of defend myself in these conversations, because let me tell you now, I am afraid to go to a sports bar over here in California because I will not be respected at all.
Oh, no, especially with those crazy Raider fans. All
right, and I'm a young guy, man. I turned 22 in less than a month. Like, I'm young, and I'm a fan of another team that's across my country that I've only seen once in person.
Yeah.
Hey, man, that ain't a good combo.
I don't think you have many friends as Falcons fans in California.
So, there was only 2 people in my entire like childhood growing up where I saw like other people wear Falcons apparel, and both of them were born in different countries. One of them was from Fiji and the other one was from Russia.
Wow, Russia.
So, like, hey, sometimes you get the fans from anywhere. And I hope that I'm kind of proving that for the community over here on the West Coast. Absolutely. You sure enough are going to see me in that 49ers game. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, okay.
So I got tickets. I got surprise tickets because my mom's a huge 49ers fan, and I've never liked the 49ers. Crazy as that sounds. We were in division rivals at one point.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just consider other teams more of a rival than the ones that we have. Like in terms of like the long like the history of these other teams, I kind of consider some of these other teams, like maybe the Packers or the Eagles, to be more of a rival than the Panthers and the Bucks have been in the past.
Yeah, I could say the 49ers for sure.
Yeah, they were always one of those. I was like, oh my God, like, why?
Yeah.
You know what tipped me off the most was hearing about Deion Sanders.
You know what? I hated that. I did not want any parts of watching San Francisco with Deion in a 49ers jersey. I was like, oh my God. Oh, Canada.
So,
wow.
Yeah. I was like, man, that's crazy. How did you end up here?
Yeah, that's an interesting.
This late at night?
Right. In Canada.
What part of Canada are you from? I'm curious.
BC, probably.
Because like the whole zone or the time zones can matter too. It's like,
yeah, that came out. Yeah, I'm thinking probably West Coast, BC area. Or something.
Because if you out like in the East Coast,
yeah,
watching us this late at night, props to you, man. Like you get an extra special shout out from here. But yeah, I mean, I got to experience a childhood and a background that a lot of other fans would really shy away from, and that, like, you know, I'm such an overthinker to the point where I had to like really justify my decision every single year. Matt Ryan made that easier, but I will say this though, I was a doubter of Matt Ryan at one point, right? Believe it or not, there were 3 years, that 2013, 2014, 2015 season. I tell you what, man, every single time that Matt Ryan threw a pass to the receiver that was off the screen, my butt was puckered. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was scared.
Those are the years that really made Matt Ryan the quarterback it is, because from 13, 14. I think those are the years where he could have really fallen off. So because there was a question whether or not he could even win a playoff game at that point.
Yeah, and you know, like he obviously broke the mold in 2012 with Seattle. And goodness gracious, even that one was a doozy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at that point I was like, I had a harder time rallying behind him. Every single time that pass was thrown, my booty hole was clenched for a home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Man, I'm not gonna lie. I was scared. I was wincing at every single time. But hey, he proved me wrong, and I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the patience of the game that sometimes is the most rewarding. And that's what I'm trying to tell other people too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
it's a
sure you can hop on every bandwagon that's imaginable, and you know, kind of vicariously laugh off of success, but you're never gonna have that feeling. You're never gonna have that true feeling of being with the team for this long, and then finally get to see them enjoy a first win of their own. Like, because if you go up on another team and they won their second one, it's not as memorable as the first.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest. It's never the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because there has been longtime fans that still remember that first one, and they still live back on that. And there's other people too on the other side of that, on the losing effort. They still remember that first loss.
That first loss. And that's what I was about to say. Like, that's why I say it's like, yeah, I'm a long time. I was pretty much born a Falcons fan, but like when I truly became a fan of the game is 1998 when I saw Jamal Anderson, Chuck Smith, those guys. So it's like, I still remember that because that was that first loss. So it's like, it's 2016, 17. Like, yeah, that hurt, but that 98 team, like there was no way you're going to convince me that we were going to lose that game.
And the thing is that we had so many opportunities up close in the game.
Yeah.
All these red zone opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that, like, you take a look at the score now, and it was like, 34-19. It could have been 34-6, but it could have been an even closer matchup. And that was with, like, John Elway at his best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So imagine Chris Chandler beating John Elway in the Super Bowl.
That's a headline for you.
I don't care if he beat out Brett Favre the year before. If he loses that Super Bowl, I'm not sure if Elway ever gets in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Because that would have been his 4th Super Bowl loss. And, sometimes, guys like Jim Kelly, they make it in anyways just off of, sympathy sometimes. But I don't know, man. Had John Elway had lost that one against Atlanta of all teams.
Yeah. And that they were not favored to even beat the Vikings at that point. So that would have been, I think that would have been a huge blemish on his resume for sure.
So, well, I kind of feel like I'm needed elsewhere at the moment because it's still getting late, but this family does not know how to sleep. So.
I appreciate you, man. Like I said, man, this show will definitely be Wednesday for sure. So if you guys truly love and support what Noah's doing at the moment, all right, show him some love in the comments. You can check him out on Facebook. You're on Twitter also. So, hey, man, let people know where they can find you.
I mean, my best, because I have a private Instagram and everything. Like, I deleted Twitter because, good God, that
Twitter is an absolute cesspool. I do not.
Instagram is almost becoming the same thing too, but I use that more for a personal reason. I use Twitter for more of a secondary reason to keep up on other stuff. But that's stuff that y'all really need to hear about. You just need to hear about the way to contact me. And honestly, it's just through my website.
Okay.
It's nlt4afn.wordpress.com. Okay. I got to keep the WordPress in there because I don't want to spend too much money on it if it's not going to pan out right away. But at the moment, that has all my socials. That has all my everything. All right. And I just want validation and feedback yet again from what I've been putting out there because I've been writing for months or at least a month ever since I was a part of this crew.
Okay.
And I've gotten a look from someone from the UK and a look from someone from Ecuador. So I'm going to shout those 2 fans out and let that be that. Hopefully I can get some more people to shout out.
No, definitely. I would definitely put that in both of the community tabs on AFN and Mad Mike Sports, man. And like I said, man, you're definitely welcome to continue to, your show on Wednesdays. And hey, man, if that's all, I'm gone, man.
All right. And appreciate y'all sticking this long. Oh, boy.